Chapter 1882, Arrival of a Perfected Immortal. Chapter 1882, Arrival of a Perfected Immortal. The Azure Dragon spiraled up and looked down with a deep gaze, glaring at the soul-summoning banner with endless might. The soul-summoning banner was fearless as well and continued waving its cloth to provoke the Azure Dragon. Roar! The Azure Dragon was enraged and roared, charging forward to fight the soul-summoning banner. This battle caused the entire abyss to tremble. Now that the soul-summoning banner was entangled with the Azure Dragon, the other cultivators finally had a chance to escape. Many Earth Immortal experts did not dare to stay on the spot and soared into the air, escaping out of the abyss. No matter what, they had to get out of this place first. Otherwise, there was a high chance they would die if they were implicated by the aftershock of this battle. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji left the abyss right away as well. However, as experts among the Heaven Immortals, the two of them did not escape far. Instead, they lingered around the abyss and waited to see what would happen. The two of them exchanged glances with a tacit understanding. Although they did not know where the Azure Dragon came from, if an internecine outcome were to occur between the Azure Dragon and the soul-summoning banner, the two of them might be the final victors. Without the help of the God Fiend, the soul-summoning banner was disadvantaged before long. Soon, the soul-summoning banner was coiled by the massive body of the Azure Dragon and could not move. Even at this moment, the soul-summoning banner did not panic at all. The Azure Dragon tugged at the soul-summoning banner and its body shrank along with the latter. The two of them turned into a streak of light and entered Su Zimo's glabella instantly. Su Zimo shuddered and was shocked. A ferocious object like the soul-summoning banner had killed so many Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals in succession. If anything went wrong in his consciousness, he would definitely die. Su Zimo observed his consciousness hurriedly. The moment the soul-summoning banner entered his consciousness, it struggled and swayed continuously, wanting to break free from the Azure Dragon's control. The soul-summoning banner even released a wisp of fiend chi, wanting to kill Su Zimo on the Creation Lotus platform. It was way too smart and noticed the weakest existence in the consciousness right away. The battle to suppress the God Fiend and soul-summoning banner took a huge toll on the Azure Dragon as well. Right now, the glow on its body had clearly dimmed significantly. It was showing signs of losing control of the soul-summoning banner. Right then, Sanskrit sounded within the consciousness. A gigantic tripod that was filled with cracks and exuded an ancient aura descended from the skies, destroying the fiend chi that surged towards Su Zimo before suppressing the soul-summoning banner rapidly. Ah! For the first time, the soul-summoning banner revealed fear when it saw the bronze square tripod. A faint scream sounded from the banner. The soul-summoning banner struggled with all its might, wanting to escape from this place. However, golden Sanskrit words descended one after another, sealing its path of escape with a tremendous force. Boom! The bronze square tripod descended and smashed heavily onto the soul-summoning banner. Howl! The soul-summoning banner shrieked tragically and smoke even billowed from its cloth. It was severely injured. Prior to this, it was fearless no matter how strong the Azure Dragon was. That was because it was difficult for the Azure Dragon to injure its foundation. But now, the appearance of the bronze square tripod caused immense damage to it instantly. The Azure Dragon took the opportunity to drag the soul-summoning banner into the bronze square tripod. A series of terrifying flames surged out from the tripod and began to incinerate the soul-summoning banner. Sigh. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved, wanting to stop this scene. The soul-summoning banner was so powerful that he had initially intended to keep it for himself. It might be of great use in the future. However, he had not expected the bronze square tripod to devour the soul-summoning banner without a second word. Raging flames surged and in a few breaths, the soul-summoning banner went silent. Although the soul-summoning banner had not been refined by the bronze square tripod, it was already lying at the bottom of the tripod silently. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he hurriedly withdrew his consciousness from his sea of consciousness and looked over. Initially, Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji were watching the battle. To think that the gigantic azure dragon and the soul-summoning banner would vanish at the same time. Depths of the abyss. The azure dragon and soul-summoning banner had transformed into a streak of light and burrowed into Su Zimo's glabella, out of their line of sight. The two of them were stunned for a moment and gave chase hurriedly. However, apart from the mess at the bottom of the abyss, there were only some cultivators who were severely injured or scared out of their wits and had yet to escape. The azure dragon and the soul-summoning banner had vanished just like that. Out of curiosity, the other heaven and earth immortals returned to the abyss one after another as well and surveyed their surroundings nervously. They found nothing. How could this be? Heaven immortal Luo Yang frowned. Meiji looked puzzled and pensive. Right then, an extremely tremendous might descended and enveloped the entire abyss in a terrifying manner. Be it heaven immortals, earth immortals, heaven immortal Luo Yang or Meiji, all the cultivators in the abyss could not move with shocked expressions. Perfected immortal. Heaven immortal Luo Yang had a terrible expression as he grit his teeth. Meiji frowned slightly as well, her charming face filled with helplessness. To think that this unassuming remote star would attract a perfected immortal expert. Only perfected immortal experts could release such a terrifying spirit consciousness pressure. Against the might of that spirit consciousness, the earth and heaven immortals present felt as insignificant as ants, as though they could be killed with a single thought. Perfected one realm. That realm had completely surpassed the black, earth and heaven essence realms. One could only become a perfected immortal after reaching the perfected one realm. It was an unimaginable transformation. Even a grade 9 heaven immortal expert had no chance of resisting against a perfected immortal. Heaven immortal Luo Yang and Meiji understood that feeling even more intensely. Both of them were geniuses among heaven immortals. Ordinary perfected immortal experts might not be able to restrict their freedom with a single spirit consciousness pressure. But now, neither of them could move against the might of the spirit consciousness. It was clear that the intruder was a top-tier expert within the perfected one realm. Unknowingly, a figure had appeared above the abyss. Many cultivators looked up instinctively. It was a young man in white robes. He stood in midair like an unsheathed sword and exuded a sharp aura. The young man walked down slowly from midair. It was as though there were stone steps in the void beneath his feet. As the young man descended continuously, the entire abyss seemed to be unable to withstand the power and the stone walls on both sides began to explode, revealing terrifying cracks as gravel rolled down. A resplendent light surged from the young man's glabella and a halo circled behind his head. He was like a god that could not be ignored. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he recalled a scene. Back in Tianhuang mainland, a clone of King Yunyu descended and was killed by Daiyu. There was a similar glow on the glabella of King Yunyu's clone and a similar halo behind his head. It seemed like a phenomenon that could only be released by a perfected immortal expert. In that case, King Yunyu's clone should be a perfected immortal as well. Chapter 1883, Exposed. Chapter 1883, Exposed. Heaven immortal Luo Yang's gaze shifted to the young man's waist and he could not help but exclaim in shock, Heaven and Earth Academy. On the young man's waist was a badge made of a unique material that was neither jade, stone, metal or gold. There was an 8 trigram pattern on it. That symbol represented Heaven and Earth Academy. Heaven and Earth Academy was a top-tier immortal sect and its status could even compare to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Meiji looked at the young man's face and pondered for a moment. As though she recalled something, she exclaimed softly as well. Sword Immortal Yu Hua had an indifferent expression as he swept his gaze across Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Meiji. So, you're inner sect disciples of Imperial Wind Temple and Flying Immortal Sect. You're quite sharp. Imperial Wind Temple and Flying Immortal Sect were ranked alongside Heaven and Earth Academy. However, the status of Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Meiji in their sects was far inferior to Sword Immortal Yu Hua. In Heaven and Earth Academy, a perfected immortal was a legacy disciple. As for Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Meiji, although they were heaven immortal experts, they could only be considered as inner sect disciples in Imperial Wind Temple and Flying Immortal Sect. This was not only a difference in strength, even in terms of status. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji were far inferior to Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Even if Sword Immortal Yu Hua killed the two of them here, Imperial Wind Temple and Flying Immortal Sect would not offend him because of the death of two inner sect disciples. In the various immortal sects, legacy disciples had noble statuses. No matter where they were experts and were even on par with the elders of the sect. Some legacy disciples even had statuses above the elders. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's gaze shifted slowly across the faces of many cultivators. Nobody dared to meet his gaze. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji were trembling in fear. The other heaven and earth immortals did not even dare to breathe loudly. When Sword Immortal Yu Hua's gaze landed on Su Zimo, it paused for a moment. It was not because there was anything wrong with Su Zimo. It was just that it was slightly unusual for such a weak black immortal to appear among the many earth and heaven immortals. Where are the two pure yang dermic treasures from earlier on? Sword Immortal Yu Hua asked slowly. Pure yang dermic treasures. Everyone present was shocked. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji had the same guess previously. Now that they heard it, their hearts skipped a beat. For sentient dermic treasures, there was no longer any difference between inferior, middle and superior grade. Their grades were determined by how many heavenly tribulations they had passed. Pure yang dermic treasures were the epitome of sentient dermic treasures. Pure yang dermic treasures could only be created after passing 9 heavenly tribulations. Sword Immortal Yu Hua harumphed coldly. These are not treasures that you guys can wield. Exalted Immortal, you're right. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang flattered hurriedly. Earlier on, I only saw one pure yang dermic treasure. It was a soul summoning banner that was extremely strong and could condense a heavenly god and a heavenly fiend. God Fiend's soul summoning banner. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's eyes lit up as he interrupted Heaven Immortal Luo Yang. This pure yang dermic treasure has been lost for many years. To think that it would be born here. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang continued. However, a divine dragon appeared out of nowhere and fought against the God Fiend's soul summoning banner. Thereafter, both of them vanished into thin air. Towards the end, Heaven Immortal Luo Yang felt guilty as well. Impossible. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's gaze was cold as he surveyed everyone and said slowly, there's no way a pure yang dermic treasure can vanish into thin air. It must be among you guys. Exalted Immortal, please spare me. I really didn't take it. It's not with me. Many Earth Immortals could not withstand the spirit consciousness pressure released by Sword Immortal Yu Hua and knelt on the ground one after another, defending loudly with horrified expressions. Heaven Immortal Luo Yang added hurriedly, if I had obtained this pure yang dermic treasure, I would definitely have offered it to you right away. I wouldn't dare to take it for myself. I'll definitely not dare to lie to you, Sword Immortal. Mei Ji forced a smile and lowered her head in weakness. Sword Immortal Yu Hua raised his brows slightly. I'll give you guys a chance. Whoever takes the initiative to stand out and hand over the treasure, I can spare your life. With that said, Sword Immortal Yu Hua closed his eyes. Su Zimo sighed internally. Notwithstanding the fact that he did not want to, even if he wanted to, he no longer had the chance to hand over the soul summoning banner. At that moment, the soul summoning banner had already been refined into molten metal by the bronze square tripod. Although the bronze square tripod had yet to absorb and refine the energy within completely, there was definitely no complete soul summoning banner. After waiting for a while, no one stood out. Sword Immortal Yu Hua opened his eyes. Instantly, it was as though a sword beam flashed in those eyes, splitting the world into two and causing the temperature of the entire abyss to plummet. Sword Immortal Yu Hua nodded with a cold expression. Very good. Since there is somebody among you guys who dares to steal the treasure in front of me, don't blame me for being merciless. Exalted Immortal. Right then, a grey-robed Earth Immortal stood out and shouted with a trembling voice. It's too late for you to stand out now. Sword Immortal Yuhua looked at that person as though he was looking at a dead man. And no. It wasn't a me. The grey-robed Earth Immortal was trembling in fear and waved it off hurriedly. Thereafter, he turned to look at Su Zimo in the corner and pointed into the distance, shouting, "It's him." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. However, he remained expressionless on the surface. Earlier on, when the Azure Dragon appeared and suppressed the God Fiend to retrieve the soul's summoning banner, most of the cultivators fled in all directions and did not manage to see the origin and departing direction of the Azure Dragon. However, there were still a few Earth Immortals who were injured beneath the abyss and could not escape right away. The grey-robed Earth Immortal was one of them. Furthermore, when the Azure Dragon appeared, the grey-robed Earth Immortal inadvertently caught sight of it appearing from Su Zimo's forehead. However, the battle was intense at that time and he could not believe his eyes, thinking that he was seeing things. Thereafter, the Azure Dragon returned. This time round, the grey-robed Earth Immortal truly saw it clearly. The Azure Dragon and the soul summoning banner transformed into a streak of light and landed on the green-robed Black Immortal. Worried that Sword Immortal Yuhua would kill them all in a fit of anger, the grey-robed Earth Immortal stood out hurriedly and betrayed Su Zimo. Prior to this, no one noticed this person in the corner. Under such circumstances, a grade 6 Black Immortal was like an ant that could be crushed by anyone. Who would care about an ant? But now, after the grey-robed Earth Immortal finished speaking, countless gazes looked over. There was scrutiny, hostility, surprise and doubt. An unimaginable pressure descended. This skinny Earth Immortal who had a feud with Su Zimo to begin with had targeted him again once more. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo tried his best to maintain his composure. "Exalted Immortal, your words are a little ridiculous. I'm only a grade 6 Black Immortal and I only arrived here by accident. How could such a treasure fall into my hands?" Chapter 1884, Death of an Earth Immortal. Chapter 1884, Death of an Earth Immortal. In this situation, he would die if he did not deal with it properly. It was clear that the Azure Dragon on the bronze square tripod had expended a lot of energy after the battle. Furthermore, even in its peak condition, the Azure Dragon was merely able to suppress the soul summoning banner. It was definitely not a match for a perfected immortal. Ever since Sword Immortal Yuhua descended, the Azure Dragon closed its eyes once more and retracted its aura. It was clear that it wanted to hide. The bronze square tripod was sentient and this was definitely not a coincidence. There was a high chance that it realized the danger. Against the accusation of the grey-robed Earth Immortal, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless and replied calmly without any panic. Many cultivators scanned Su Zimo with their spirit consciousnesses and frowned as well. As Su Zimo had said, he was only a grade 6 Black Immortal. Even if the soul summoning banner wanted to seek a master, it could not have chosen such a weak cultivator. Furthermore, if this Black Immortal had truly taken away the soul summoning banner, he would have been scared out of his wits against such an accusation. How could he be so calm? Many cultivators merely glanced at Su Zimo and pouted their lips, not taking the grey-robed Earth Immortal's words seriously. Everyone's first reaction was that the grey-robed Earth Immortal merely wanted a scapegoat. When the grey-robed Earth Immortal heard Su Zimo's reply, he looked at Sword Immortal Yuhua hurriedly and explained, "Exalted Immortal, this person definitely took the soul summoning banner. I saw it with my own eyes. It's absolutely true." Sword Immortal Yuhua glared at Su Zimo and smiled gently. "It's indeed strange for a mere Black Immortal to be here." Pausing for a moment, he changed the topic and said coldly, "However, if we can't find the soul summoning banner on that person." Sword Immortal Yuhua turned to look at the grey-robed Earth Immortal and hollered frostily, "You'll have to die." The grey-robed Earth Immortal shuddered in fear and gulped, nodding with a pale expression. Suddenly, he regretted standing out. But now, he had no way out. Sword Immortal Yuhua shifted his gaze towards Su Zimo who was not far away. With a slight shift of his spirit consciousness, he removed the storage bag on Su Zimo's waist. Under normal circumstances, storage bags were the most secretive and private items on a cultivator's body. They could not be shown to outsiders, not even their closest kin. Stealing a cultivator's storage bag was no different from killing them. Su Zimo's expression was as cold as ever. However, he could not move against the might of Sword Immortal Yu Hua's spirit consciousness. The difference in strength between them was way too great. Sword Immortal Yu Hua opened Su Zimo's storage bag and took a rough look with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Although there was no soul summoning banner in the storage bag, there were indeed many things inside. There were even some storage bags of Earth Immortals. The treasures and wealth in that storage bag had far surpassed the scope of a grade 6 Black Immortal. Even the Earth Immortals present could not match him. No. Sword Immortal Yu Hua threw the storage bag casually beneath his feet without taking another look. The items in the storage bag were not worthy of his attention. When he heard that, the grey-robed Earth Immortal at the side was so scared that his legs went limp. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly, saying, "Exalted Immortal, please spare me. Please spare me. I really saw that divine dragon burrow into that person's body. If I'm lying, my body and essence spirit will be destroyed and I'll die without a burial ground." Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression was indifferent. Suddenly, he reached out and pulled Su Zimo closer through the void, grabbing the latter's throat. "Let me see what's in your consciousness." Sword Immortal Yu Hua smirked coldly and channeled his spirit consciousness, piercing into Su Zimo's consciousness. That action was even more violent. The other cultivators shook their heads when they saw that. The consciousness was an important place for cultivators. Even if that person did not die, he would definitely suffer an irrecoverable injury if such a massive spirit consciousness barged in and scanned him brazenly. Of course, there was no pity on the faces of many cultivators. In the eyes of everyone, Su Zimo was just an ant that had ascended from the lower world. Even if he was killed directly, nobody would bat an eyelid. Su Zimo's consciousness was completely exposed against the spirit consciousness of Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Apart from a dull yellow lotus platform, there was a battered bronze tripod buried in the yellow sand and nothing else. Actually, before Sword Immortal Yu Hua appeared, Su Zimo had already vaguely realized that the situation was bad when Heaven Immortal Luo Yang and Mei Ji returned. Therefore, he made preparations in advance and sent the 9 heavens living soil into his consciousness, enveloping the creation lotus platform and bronze square tripod. Without his activation, the 9 heavens living soil would look like a handful of yellow sand without anything special about it. Sword Immortal Yu Hua could not recognize the 9 heavens living soil at all. As for the bronze square tripod, even King Yunyu made a wrong judgment back then. Given Sword Immortal Yu Hua's judgment and experience, there was even less of a chance he could tell. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was a little disappointed that he had gained nothing. He withdrew his spirit consciousness and tossed his arm casually. Bang! Su Zimo's body smashed against the stone wall in the corner of the abyss uncontrollably. He was severely injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. His gaze dimmed as he slid down from the stone wall slowly. More than half of Su Zimo's tendons and bones were shattered and his organs were ruptured with a casual throw from Sword Immortal Yu Hua. If it was any other Black Immortal, they would definitely not survive against such an impact. However, Su Zimo was the Green Lotus true body after all and possessed immense regeneration capabilities. Even though he was severely injured, he could still maintain his life force. Su Zimo sat limply in a corner of the abyss with a lowered head. However, his eyes were filled with deep rage. Even if Sword Immortal Yu Hua could not find the soul summoning banner on Su Zimo, he had no intention of letting the latter off. He snatched Su Zimo's storage bag, probed his consciousness and even wanted to take his life in the end. That series of actions triggered the rage and killing intent in Su Zimo's heart. From Sword Immortal Yu Hua, he could see the coldness and ruthlessness towards low-level cultivators like him and those who ascended from the lower worlds. This was the cruelty of the upper world. However, even if Su Zimo was indignant, he was completely helpless against the perfected one-realm Sword Immortal Yu Hua. After throwing Su Zimo down, Sword Immortal Yu Hua turned around and looked at the grey-robed Earth Immortal kneeling on the ground not far away, sighing gently. You sure are bold to dare to lie to me. Although Sword Immortal Yu Hua's tone was not sharp, the grey-robed Earth Immortal's face was ashen. Exalted Immortal, I didn't. The grey-robed Earth Immortal's mind was in a mess and he was already incoherent. Sword Immortal Yu Hua said indifferently, since that's the case, I'll do as you wish today. I'll destroy your body in essence spirit and let you die without a burial ground. Before his sentence was finished, he waved his sleeves gently and a blinding sword beam burst forth, engulfing the grey-robed Earth Immortal instantly. Ah! A short, tragic cry sounded. Right in front of everyone, the grey-robed Earth Immortal was sliced into pieces by the sword beam, turning into a blood mist that dissipated in midair. Chapter 1885, Zither Immortal Mengyao. Chapter 1885, Zither Immortal Mengyao. When they saw that, apart from fear, many cultivators lamented internally. To think that the vicious oath the person had just sworn would come true, his body in essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse left. None of the heaven immortals present could escape from the attack of Sword Immortal Yu Hua, let alone the grey-robed Earth Immortal. This was a complete suppression in terms of strength. After killing the grey-robed Earth Immortal, Sword Immortal Yu Hua removed the storage bag on his waist and scanned it, but to no avail. Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yu Hua turned around and looked at the void not far above his head, saying coldly, since you're here, why hide? Haha. A loud laugh sounded from above the abyss. As golden light surged, a massive figure appeared. It was a gigantic ant. Golden Ant Race. All the earth and heaven immortals present were secretly alarmed when they saw that. The Golden Ant Race was extremely powerful among many living beings and often appeared in the millions. Everywhere they passed, they devoured everything. Even powerful living beings like the dragon race had to avoid them. A tall figure sat on the golden ant. He wore golden armor and his arms were bare. His eyes shone with a golden light and his aura was terrifying. There was a halo behind the head of the golden armored man as well. Another perfected immortal. I'm Luo Yang, an inner sect disciple of Imperial Wind Temple. Greetings, senior brother Wu Feng. When heaven immortal Luo Yang saw that person, he was delighted and hurried forward to bow with a respectful expression. Although both of them were disciples of Imperial Wind Temple, the difference in their cultivation realms and status was immense. Oh, it's you. The golden armored man named Wu Feng nodded slightly. I've heard of you before. You're quite a character in the inner sect. When he heard that, heaven immortal Luo Yang was even more delighted. He knew that with perfected immortal Wu Feng's words, his life was saved at the very least. Initially, many cultivators in the abyss were already miserable against the pressure of Sword Immortal Yu Hua's spirit consciousness. But now, another perfected immortal had descended. Two completely different spirit consciousness pressures probed, clashed and collided in the abyss. The pressure on the cultivators increased exponentially and they could only hold on bitterly. Under such circumstances, no one noticed that the severely injured green-robed black immortal who was initially slumped in a corner of the abyss had already vanished. Sword Immortal Yu Hua glared at perfected immortal Wu Feng with a sharp gaze. Perfected immortal Wu Feng knew how powerful Yu Hua was and he had a guarded expression, not daring to be distracted. The two perfected immortals did not notice that someone was missing from the abyss. Under such circumstances, who would pay attention to a puny ant? Even Su Zimo was shocked and bewildered. Initially, he was slumped in a corner of the abyss, recuperating in silence. Although it was a casual throw from a perfected immortal, it caused immense damage to the Green Lotus true body and it was difficult for him to recover within a short period of time. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit slowly before channeling his blood qi as much as possible to heal his injuries bit by bit. However, right then, a change happened. Initially, he was leaning against the hard stone wall. However, in the blink of an eye, he felt nothing behind him and fell backwards. It was as though his body had passed through a gentle and cold water barrier, as though he had entered another space. The pressure that enveloped him initially from Sword Immortal Yu Hua and perfected immortal Wu Feng had vanished as well. Su Zimo wanted to prop himself up. However, he felt a sharp pain in his body the moment he moved. Most of the bones of the Green Lotus true body were shattered and he could not move yet. Did I accidentally enter another space? There's another world in this abyss? Su Zimo looked at the many cultivators not far away and frowned slightly. It was a mysterious sensation. Although Su Zimo was not far from the many cultivators, he seemed to be isolated from them. The sharpness of sword immortal Yu Hua, the might of perfected immortal Wu Feng and the pressure outside could not affect him at all. He could clearly see, hear and sense everything that was happening outside. However, the cultivators outside could not see him at all. In the abyss. With a cold expression, sword immortal Yu Hua said slowly, "Wu Feng, you're too late. That pure yang dermic treasure belongs to me." Fufu. Perfected immortal Wu Feng laughed. "Fellow Taoist Yu Hua, from what I know, there's more than one pure yang dermic treasure here. Since you chose one, the other belongs to me." "No." Sword immortal Yu Hua replied coldly, "I'll kill whoever dares to lay their hands on these two pure yang dermic treasures. You as well. Yu Hua, I admit that your sword Dao is peerless in killing. However, it won't be so easy for you to kill me." Perfected immortal Wu Feng's aura was rising as well. With just a few words, the two perfected immortals were already at daggers drawn. "Fellow Taoists, why are you doing this?" Right then, a woman's gentle voice sounded from afar. It was as though she was whispering in everyone's ears and everyone could hear it clearly. The voice was extremely pleasant, as though it had a magical power that could intoxicate one. Even the atmosphere between sword immortal Yu Hua and perfected immortal Wu Feng eased significantly. Everyone turned over. A woman walked over slowly from the distant horizon. She was tall and wore plain blue palace robes that accentuated her voluptuous figure perfectly. It was moving. The woman's face was fair and flawless. Her skin was white as snow and her black hair was tied into a bun with a few jade hairpins. She had a refined aura and walked through the air with a graceful bearing that was mesmerizing. Many cultivators in the abyss could not shift their gazes away from the woman's face. Even Su Zimo could not help but exclaim internally when he saw that woman. She was indeed a peerless beauty. Meiji could be considered as a rare beauty and was seductive. However, she was completely inferior compared to this woman in palace robes. Consort Yu was probably the only one who could match her in terms of pure appearance. However, there was a faint coldness in the eyes of the woman in palace robes that kept people at arm's length. When perfected immortal Wu Feng saw who it was, his gaze turned fervent as he walked forward with a smile. Today's trip was truly not wasted. To think that I would be able to meet Fairy Mengyao here. Greetings, Senior Sister Mengyao. Meiji retracted her charming appearance and bowed respectfully. It's Fairy Mengyao. Who is Fairy Mengyao? She's one of the 4 great fairies, zither immortal Mengyao. I heard that Fairy Mengyao's status is incomparably noble. Not only is she a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect, she's also a princess of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom with the bloodline of the royal family. Every single one of the 4 great fairies is charming and devastatingly beautiful. It's a blessing of 3 lifetimes to be able to catch a glimpse of them from afar. To think that I would be able to meet the zither immortal Mengyao today. Ding! Right then, a strange zither sound sounded. Mengyao raised her finger gently and a few silver threads burst forth, entering the glabella of the cultivators who were discussing instantly. Before the excitement on the faces of the few cultivators dissipated, they died on the spot. Chapter 1886, Dao Heart Crack. Chapter 1886, Dao Heart Crack. The obsession in the eyes of many cultivators vanished instantly, replaced by fear and shock. Prior to this, no one had expected such a devastatingly beautiful woman to be so terrifying that she could kill so many people with a single wave of her hand. In the abyss wall, Su Zimo merely narrowed his eyes without revealing any surprise. The aura released by Zither Immortal Meng Yao was clearly not weaker than Sword Immortal Yu Hua or Perfected Immortal Wu Feng. This was also a Perfected Immortal expert. The coldness in her eyes when she looked at the other cultivators was no different from Sword Immortal Yu Hua and Perfected Immortal Wu Feng. Apart from Yu Hua and Wu Feng, the other cultivators present were like ants and fishes in the eyes of this woman. Their lives were worthless. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression was calm even after the death of the few cultivators. Haha. Perfected Immortal Wu Feng was stunned for a moment before he reacted and burst into laughter. Good kill. Fairy Meng Yao is not someone you guys can discuss casually. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was a little disdainful towards Perfected Immortal Wu Feng's flattery and pouted his lips, asking indifferently, why? Are you interested in the God Fiend's soul summoning banner as well, Fairy Meng Yao? If you're interested, I'm willing to withdraw from the fight for this pure yang dermic treasure. Perfected Immortal Wu Feng said immediately in a deep voice. When he heard that, Su Zimo sneered internally. On the surface, it seemed like Perfected Immortal Wu Feng was trying to curry favor with Fairy Meng Yao. However, in reality, if Perfected Immortal Wu Feng were to withdraw, it would mean that Fairy Meng Yao would fight against Sword Immortal Yu Hua for the God Fiend's soul summoning banner. Perfected Immortal Wu Feng was extremely scheming and was trying to fake a retreat so that he could reap the rewards later. With an indifferent expression, Meng Yao shook her head. Fellow Taoists, you've misunderstood. I'm not here for the God Fiend's soul summoning banner. I don't want any other treasures here. I only want an ancient zither made of parasol tree wood. The mention of that had Su Zimo's heart skipping a beat. The ancient zither that Fairy Meng Yao mentioned seemed to be the one he had encountered previously. It was also sentient and had killed many people. The ancient zither was accompanied by an ancient flute. After seeing the bronze square tripod, the zither and flute fled and disappeared. At that time, Su Zimo already felt that the ancient zither was unusual. To think that it would attract a perfected immortal expert. Perfected Immortal Wu Feng smiled. Fairy Meng Yao loves music and entered the Tao with her zither. Everyone knows that. Naturally, this ancient zither belongs to you. I searched elsewhere in the abyss earlier on but there were no traces of the ancient zither. Fairy Meng Yao's beautiful eyes shifted to the many cultivators. Therefore, whoever among you who has this ancient zither can hand it over now. Her voice was extremely pleasant. However, the moment she said that, everyone present shuddered and lamented internally. The group of them had gone through countless tribulations to arrive here. However, they were encircled by the soul-summoning banner and nearly died. Everyone had just escaped but they were now trapped here by the three perfected immortals with no choice. Even after 10 breaths, no one stood out. What do you guys think? Meng Yao asked. Sword Immortal Yu Hua shrugged his shoulders and said casually, we'll search them one by one. I truly don't believe that so many treasures can disappear into thin air. That's right. Wu Feng said coldly, anyone who steals treasures will be killed without mercy. Meng Yao nodded. We'll do as you say, fellow Taoists. With a single thought of Sword Immortal Yu Hua's spirit consciousness, the storage bags on the waists of many cultivators present were removed and the spirit consciousness imprints were erased with ease. Splash. The items in the storage bags fell to the ground. Essence spirit stones, elixirs, dermic treasures, secret manuals and spirit components were poured out. Many cultivators had ugly expressions. The three of them searched through the items but still could not find the God Fiend's soul summoning banner and ancient zither. Perfected Immortal Wu Feng discovered a few interesting items among them. After scrutinizing the items for a while, he placed them in his bag in front of many cultivators and took them for himself. 2 heaven immortals were enraged and clenched their fists. They grit their teeth but did not dare to say anything. Those few items were theirs. This was a blatant robbery. Very good. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was expressionless. Let's see how much longer you can hide. As he said that, he pulled a heaven immortal in front of him and sent his spirit consciousness into the latter's consciousness. After a fruitless search, he tossed the latter aside. Perfected immortal Wu Feng patted the golden ant beneath him, and the ant waved two slender golden feelers on its head, sweeping the heaven immortal over. Similarly, he searched the person's consciousness with his spirit consciousness brazenly. After obtaining nothing, perfected immortal Wu Feng sent the person before Meng Yao with a smile. "Fairy, please check." She scanned the person's consciousness with her spirit consciousness before exiting. Throughout the entire process, the heaven immortal could not resist at all, and his face was pale. Before long, it was the third heaven immortal's turn. The person was a black-robed young man. There was a hint of sharpness in his body, and he had a prideful expression. Taking a deep breath of air, the black-robed young man said in a deep voice, "Exalted immortals, please show mercy. I'm willing to swear that I'm not hiding the god-fiend soul-summoning banner and ancient zither. If I break the vow, cut the crap." Sword immortal Yuhua pulled the black-robed young man over and grabbed his throat, sneering, "Your vow is worthless in my eyes." The black-robed young man's face flushed red and green veins popped up on his forehead. His eyes were filled with rage, and he could no longer hold it in as he stuttered, "Why, you guys are people of the immortal sections. When you do things, cough, you're so domineering and unreasonable. How are you different from cultivators of the fiend domain? You have a death wish." Sword immortal Yuhua spat out two words and exerted strength in his palm, crushing the black-robed young man's throat. A tremendous power burst forth and shattered the latter's essence spirit as well. A heaven immortal was dead. The other cultivators were ashen when they saw that. Sword immortal Yuhua surveyed everyone with a sharp gaze and said slowly, "Let me tell you, if anyone from the fiend domain were to come, they would have killed all of you long ago before searching for the location of your dermic treasures. That's the difference. We are already being compassionate by sparing your lives. You had better behave yourselves." Perfected immortal Wu Feng looked down at everyone and smirked. Su Zimo watched coldly with a cold expression. Even heaven immortal experts were trampled mercilessly by sword immortal Yuhua without any dignity remaining. The coldness in the eyes of the three perfected immortal experts was innate and deeply rooted. It was as though their actions were a great gift to the many cultivators present. However, Su Zimo knew that the damage to everyone's essence spirits was secondary after experiencing such humiliation. More importantly, there would definitely be scars left in the Tao hearts of every cultivator, affecting their future cultivation. If they could not dispel that negative impact, it would be extremely easy for them to develop mental demons in their future cultivation. The cracks in their Tao hearts would increase until their Tao hearts collapsed. Su Zimo was not spared either. Chapter 1887, Dragon Corpse Awakening. Chapter 1887, Dragon Corpse Awakening. If he wanted to repair his Tao heart's injuries and dispel his mental demons, the simplest way was to fight back and suppress sword immortal Yuhua. However, Su Zimo knew that the difference between them was way too great. Even if he released all his trump cards, he could not defend against a single finger from sword immortal Yuhua. Right then, the bronze square tripod in Su Zimo's consciousness seemed to have sensed his thoughts and flew out on its own. The bronze square tripod circled around Su Zimo before speeding towards the back. Su Zimo was severely injured and could not move freely. He could only turn around forcibly. The space was extremely huge, and behind Su Zimo was a mountain range that extended into the clouds with no end in sight. The mountain range was lush and filled with vegetation. However, for some reason, the endless mountain range exuded a dead aura. Su Zimo scanned with his spirit consciousness and did not see any birds, beasts, or living beings. The mountain range was lined with mountain peaks that were extremely steep. The mountains could even be described as sharp, like gigantic swords that were erected upside down on the mountain range. The bronze square tripod came before the mountain range and stopped. Su Zimo did not know why. Suddenly, the bronze square tripod transformed into a streak of light and smashed towards the middle of the mountain range. Boom! There was a loud bang. Instantly, the ground shook and the entire space shook. Su Zimo was shocked and his expression changed as he turned to look at everyone in the abyss. The bronze square tripod had caused such a huge commotion. If Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two outside were alarmed, things would be bad. But soon, Su Zimo was relieved. In the abyss, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two were still searching the consciousnesses of many cultivators for the location of the God Fiend's soul summoning banner and did not notice anything. Su Zimo was puzzled. He was less than 100 feet away from Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the others. Although it seemed like there was only a wall between them, they could not sense the existence of that space at all. What sort of a place was this? Ancient ruins? An ancestral secret ground? Boom! Another loud bang sounded behind him as the bronze square tripod collided against the gigantic mountain range once more. Countless rocks shattered and rolled down. Su Zimo frowned. The bronze square tripod was already sentient and there was naturally a reason for its actions. However, Su Zimo could not figure out the reason. Boom! 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 The bronze square tripod showed no signs of stopping and struck the mountain range repeatedly, as though it wanted to penetrate the mountain range before stopping. The cracks on the mountain range increased and Su Zimo gradually noticed something strange. After many ancient trees and boulders rolled down, a dark golden light could vaguely be seen from the mountain range. However, under the relentless collisions of the bronze square tripod, dust billowed and Su Zimo could not see everything clearly. He did not know what was within the mountain range. Boom! 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 The bronze square tripod was still striking continuously. Above the mountain range, the mountain peaks that towered into the clouds and were as sharp as gigantic swords began to shatter as well and countless boulders rolled down. The strange thing was that the mountain peaks did not collapse completely. After the boulders on the surface of the mountain peaks rolled down, their true appearances were revealed. With a thought, Su Zimo abandoned his severely injured green lotus true body for the time being. His essence spirit left his body and arrived before the mountain range to take a look. Pust! Su Zimo was shocked. The mountain peaks were gigantic dark golden bone spikes that soared into the skies with an extremely terrifying aura. The gigantic bone spikes alone were almost 1,000 feet tall. Su Zimo looked down and saw that the dark golden lights revealed in the mountain range were gigantic scales. The light on the scales had already dimmed significantly without any signs of life. However, the aura they emitted was still unusually terrifying. That was the aura of the dragon race. Su Zimo was dumbfounded. He finally understood. This was not an endless mountain range, but a gigantic dragon corpse. The terrifying bone spikes that surged into the skies on the back of the dragon alone were close to 1,000 feet long. How massive was the body of this dragon? At the same time, Su Zimo confirmed something. It was not a coincidence that the bronze square tripod brought him to the Dragon Abyss Star. Its true intention was probably the gigantic dragon corpse before him. The reason why Su Zimo could enter this place was probably because of the bronze square tripod and the dragon phoenix aura in his essence spirit. It was unknown how long the dragon corpse had existed in this space. Over the years, even the dust accumulated on it had gradually weathered, forming soil and rocks with vegetation and ancient trees. However, the dragon corpse had not rotted and was preserved till now. This was the horned dragon lineage of the dragon race. Their physiques were the strongest and they were clad in scales with shocking defense. Although it was a dragon corpse and it was only the tip of the iceberg, Su Zimo could sense pressure similar to Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two from this corpse. The combat strength of this divine dragon when it was alive was definitely not weaker than Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two. In fact, it might even be more terrifying than the three perfected immortals outside. This dragon corpse is neither rotten nor damaged. If I can control this dragon corpse, I'll probably be able to fight against the three perfected immortals outside with the powerful body of the horned dragon lineage. Su Zimo murmured softly before shaking his head. Unfortunately, my essence spirit is too weak and I can't mobilize this dragon corpse at all. Su Zimo's essence spirit had the dragon phoenix essence spirit and could fuse perfectly with the dragon corpse without any resistance. However, the difference in cultivation realm between his essence spirit and the dragon corpse was way too great. There was a high chance that the dragon corpse before him was the corpse of a perfected one-realm horned dragon or even something of a dragon king level. However, Su Zimo's essence spirit was only at the black essence realm. Even if his essence spirit fused perfectly with the horned dragon corpse, he would not be able to mobilize the dragon corpse. He might not even be able to move a single dragon claw, let alone fight. Right then, the azure dragon on the outer wall of the bronze square tripod opened its eyes once more and crawled out slowly. The battle between the azure dragon and the god fiend's soul summoning banner earlier on had consumed a lot of energy. It could not defeat Sword Immortal Yuhua at all, so the azure dragon chose to remain silent. At that moment, the azure dragon reappeared and coiled around Su Zimo's essence spirit, charging into the horned dragon's corpse and right into its consciousness. Su Zimo was shocked when he entered the consciousness. The consciousness was vast and boundless. Although it was dead and dark, it was not exhausted. When the azure dragon brought Su Zimo's essence spirit to the consciousness, spots of golden light appeared and gradually lit up. The next moment, the gigantic dragon corpse opened its eyes. The mountains were tumbling and the ground was disintegrating. Chapter 1888, Massive Battle. Chapter 1888, Massive Battle. At the end of the abyss. Sword Immortal Yuhua, perfected Immortal Wu Feng and Meng Yao were still searching for the god fiend's soul summoning banner from the many heaven and earth immortals. In that short period of time, the three perfected immortals had already searched more than half of the people present but to no avail. A hint of impatience gradually appeared on the face of perfected Immortal Wu Feng. Could someone have already left this place with the treasures? Perfected Immortal Wu Feng asked with a frown. Indeed, it's possible. You can look elsewhere. Sword Immortal Yuhua replied indifferently. Actually, he had witnessed a divine dragon vanish into the abyss with the god fiend's soul summoning banner. A pure yang dermic treasure could not have vanished into thin air, it must still be here. However, if perfected Immortal Wu Feng were to give up just like that, Sword Immortal Yuhua would naturally not stop him. All of a sudden, sensing something, she frowned slightly and asked, "Fellow Taoists, did you hear anything?" She had entered the Tao with her zither and was the most sensitive to sound. Earlier on, she vaguely heard a dragon roar. However, when she focused her attention and listened, the dragon roar disappeared, as though she had imagined it. Hear anything? Perfected Immortal Wu Feng shook his head. Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yuhua stopped in his tracks in deep thought. Although he did not hear anything earlier on, for some reason, his heart skipped a beat. It was as though something big was about to happen on a whim. At their cultivation realm, this heartbeat would definitely not happen for no reason, it was a sign. Suddenly, a large shadow appeared above the abyss, blocking the light. Many cultivators looked up instinctively. Pust. Everyone shuddered and gasped in shock. Even Sword Immortal Yuhua and the other two were shocked. Their pupils constricted and they had bewildered expressions with deep fear in their eyes. Unknowingly, a golden divine dragon had appeared in the firmaments. The scales on the divine dragon were a little dim. However, every single scale was incomparably huge and filled with a ferocious aura. The divine dragon circled above the abyss and its massive body extended endlessly. It was 100,000 feet long. Sharp golden bone spikes grew from its back and soared into the skies, as though they could penetrate the void and all living beings. The divine dragon was way too massive. When its body was fully expanded, it could probably cross half the dragon abyss star. The divine dragon looked down at the many cultivators in the abyss with a cold gaze, like a god that ruled over all living beings. Why is there a horned dragon here? Meng Yao murmured softly with a grim expression. No, there's something strange about this horned dragon. Sword Immortal Yuhua frowned and said. The might released by the horned dragon was even superior to the three perfected immortals. However, the aura of the horned dragon was filled with a sense of death. Furthermore, the three perfected immortals could not detect the cultivation realm of the horned dragon. Fellow Daoist of the dragon race, are you from the dragon world? How should I address you? Perfected immortal Wu Feng did not act rashly and probed instead. The golden horned dragon remained silent. This horned dragon was controlled by Su Zimo and the Azure Dragon. The reason why the three of them could not detect the cultivation of the golden horned dragon was because it was a corpse to begin with. No matter what, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two had not expected a horned dragon corpse to be here. More than that, they could not imagine that someone could control the horned dragon corpse. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's gaze was cold as he glared at the horned dragon in the firmaments and said slowly, "This is not the dragon world. You had better think carefully before trying to snatch our treasures." Roar. The golden horned dragon let out a deafening roar at Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Ah! A series of tragic cries sounded from the abyss. Many heaven immortals swayed with pained expressions and descended from midair. If that was the case for heaven immortals, it was even worse for earth immortal experts. Blood flowed from their ears as they fell from midair with fearful expressions. Sword Immortal Yu Hua and Perfected Immortal Wu Feng grunted deeply as well. Meng Yao was well versed in music and reacted extremely quickly. The moment the dragon roar sounded, she took out a zither from her storage bag and strummed it with her slender fingers. The clear sound of the zither echoed and fought against the dragon roar, negating the impact of the dragon roar. The golden horned dragon swooped down and charged toward Sword Immortal Yu Hua murderously. The horned dragon was already dead. Although he had the help of the Azure Dragon on the bronze square tripod, Su Zimo could only barely control the dragon corpse. He could not use any divine powers or dermic arts and could only fight Sword Immortal Yu Hua head-on with his powerful dragon body. Kill! Sword Immortal Yu Hua hollered and his glabella shone brightly with a bedazzling light as a sword flew out rapidly. The sword shimmered and the moment it appeared, it trembled continuously with a chilling intent. Moon Essence Sword. When Perfected Immortal Wu Feng saw the sword, he narrowed his eyes with a wary expression. The Moon Essence Sword was the dermic treasure that made Sword Immortal Yu Hua famous. It was incomparably sharp and could slay countless strong foes with extreme ferocity. Against the impact of the golden horned dragon, Sword Immortal Yu Hua had a fearless expression and slashed upwards with a bright gaze. A sword beam burst forth like mercury. It was too fast. If it was a true golden horned dragon, it might have been able to dodge it. But now, the golden horned dragon was controlled by Su Zimo's essence spirit after all. Even if he sensed Sword Immortal Yu Hua's attack, his reaction was a step slower. The golden horned dragon only had time to lower its head slightly. Clang! The sword beam struck the head of the golden horned dragon and sparks flew as the sound of metal clashing echoed. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression changed. Although his Moon Essence sword was not a pure Yang spirit treasure, it was an 8 tribulation spirit treasure. Coupled with the cultivation technique he cultivated, even dragons of the same cultivation realm would not be able to withstand that slash. However, the golden horned dragon before him was completely unharmed. Su Zimo was delighted. Although it was only a dragon corpse, its strength was far beyond his imagination. The golden horned dragon defended against Sword Immortal Yu Hua's slash and arrived before him in the blink of an eye. The dragon horns on its head smashed towards the latter. It was already too late for Sword Immortal Yu Hua to dodge. He could only turn the Moon Essence sword and hold it horizontally in front of him. Boom! The gigantic horns of the golden horned dragon collided violently in the middle of the Moon Essence sword. The blade of the sword caved in at a visible speed and curved into a terrifying arc, as though it was about to snap the next moment. Bang! Even with his Moon Essence sword to defend, Sword Immortal Yu Hua was still sent flying by the tremendous impact and smashed into the abyss wall behind him in a sorry state. Fellow Taoists, what are you waiting for? Sword Immortal Yu Hua broke free from the stone wall with a dark expression and said coldly, "The God Fiend's soul summoning banner must be on this divine dragon." Kill that dragon and the three of us will split the treasures evenly. Perfected immortal Wu Feng and Meng Yao were tempted. Chapter 1889, Dragon King? Chapter 1889, Dragon King? The horned dragon did not merely possess a single god-fiend soul-summoning banner. Given the immense strength of this horned dragon, it must have collected countless treasures to be able to cultivate to this realm. If they could kill it here, the three perfected immortals would be able to split those treasures. Everything else aside, the horned dragon's horns, scales, bones, dragon blood, flesh and so on were all rare utmost treasures that could be used as main materials for elixir and weapon refinement. Among the pure yang spirit treasures, there was a dragon bone sword that was completely made from the bones of a true dragon and was extremely notorious. When released to its full stance, the dragon bone sword could even condense a true dragon. If it was any other perfected immortal, they would definitely choose to retreat and avoid the sharpness of such a massive horned dragon. However, even among perfected immortals, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other two were top paragons. Perfected immortal Wu Feng and Meng Yao exchanged glances and made the same decision almost instantly. They were going to join forces with Sword Immortal Yu Hua to slay the dragon. Perfected immortal Wu Feng's gaze was burning as he rode on the golden ant motionlessly. Suddenly, a gigantic stone axe appeared in his palm. Meng Yao waved her sleeves gently and the pitch-black zither hovered in midair in front of her. Ding! Her slender fingers plucked the strings of the zither gently and a steely killing intent seemed to echo from the abyss. The zither strings quivered slightly and channeled heaven and earth essence chi. In midair, a cold saber was formed and stabbed towards the horned dragon. The saber was completely condensed from essence chi and was almost transparent. It was difficult to notice unless one focused their attention. Although she was one of the four great fairies, she was also a princess of the great Jin immortal kingdom and was decisive to kill. At this point of her cultivation, she had killed countless experts. Many cultivators were bewitched by the sound of the zither and would die on the spot if they were distracted. Kill! The moment the zither sounded, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and Perfected Immortal Wu Feng hollered and attacked at the same time. Perfected immortal Wu Feng rode on the golden ant and charged towards the horned dragon with the gigantic stone axe in his hands. Extremely terrifying auras coiled around the surface of the stone axe. This was a power that perfected immortal experts could only control after condensing a Dao fruit, true essence. On the other side, Sword Immortal Yu Hua channeled his true essence power and a round moon vaguely appeared above his head. The moonlight was bright and clear like water. When it scattered down, it enveloped Sword Immortal Yu Hua and his aura rose rapidly. The light emitted by the moon essence sword intensified. Slash! This time round, Sword Immortal Yu Hua used a secret skill and released it with all his might. He attacked once more and swung his moon essence sword towards the horned dragon. The three perfected immortals attacked at almost the same time. Many earth immortals and heaven immortals who were initially in the abyss had long escaped in the chaos. Although the attack of a perfected immortal expert did not seem powerful, the killing power released was extremely terrifying. None of the three perfected immortals used supreme divine powers. That was because the Dao fruits of perfected immortal experts contained all the Dao, dermic arts and divine powers that they had cultivated along the way. As long as a perfected immortal expert used the power of the Dao fruit, they could release the power of a supreme divine power with every punch and kick. At the perfected immortal realm, one would begin to revert to the origin of nature. There were not many fancy fighting techniques and every single attack seemed simple, but they were the most direct killing techniques. Roar! The horned dragon roared once more. Before the saber condensed from heaven and earth essence chi could approach, it was shattered by the powerful dragon roar. The horned dragon circled in the air and its 100,000 feet tall body danced in midair, emitting an oppressive aura. Shaking its head and tail, it bared its fangs and claws. Clang! The horned dragon used the dragon horns on its head to defend against the moon essence sword. The dragon horn was the toughest part of the horned dragon lineage and was even stronger than the claws of the dragon race. Sparks flew when the moon essence sword struck it. Thereafter, the tip of the sword shone brightly and sword chi spread. It struck the horned dragon's body with tinkling sounds but was blocked by the gigantic dragon scales. Phew! The horned dragon swayed its tail and whipped the incoming perfected immortal Wu Feng. The divine dragon swung its tail and gathered the power of its massive body, colliding against the gigantic stone axe with a destructive might. Boom! The stone axe struck the dragon's tail. A massive shockwave burst forth rapidly and the entire dragon abyss star trembled. Perfected immortal Wu Feng and the golden ant beneath him were motionless and the entire world seemed to have frozen. Immediately after, his expression changed. The power released by that tail whip was way too terrifying and he could not withstand it given his cultivation. Crack! 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 The golden armor on perfected immortal Wu Feng let out a jarring sound, as though it could no longer hold on and was about to fall apart. I'm sorry. Suddenly, perfected immortal Wu Feng whispered. If he were to take that attack head-on, he would definitely be severely injured. As such, he could only divert most of his strength to the golden ant beneath him. This golden ant had followed him for many years and was loyal. However, at this critical juncture, perfected immortal Wu Feng could only endure the pain and sacrifice it. Perfected immortal Wu Feng retreated. Bang! The golden ant beneath him exploded into a blood mist and its essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse left. The golden ant race was famous for their strength. However, it could not defend against the 100,000 feet long horned dragon and died on the spot. The horned dragon's aura surged and its massive body coiled around the three perfected immortals in a massive battle. Although Su Zimo was once a dragon phoenix, he did not know much about the horned dragon's body. Furthermore, the level of this battle had already surpassed his understanding. Although he was the one guarding the horned dragon's consciousness right now, the true controller of the horned dragon's battle was the azure dragon in the bronze square tripod. It was a mysterious feeling. Although Su Zimo was within, it was as though he was outside, comprehending the combat and killing techniques of the azure dragon race. The sound of the zither was endless. Meng Yao's slender fingers plucked the strings continuously and divine weapons burst forth from the zither one after another, covering the skies densely. However, this horned dragon was way too strong. Those weapons could not penetrate the scales of the horned dragon at all. On the contrary, against the encirclement of the horned dragon, Sword Immortal Yu Hua and Perfected Immortal Wu Feng were forced to retreat in defeat and could not defend at all. A gigantic dragon claw tore through the void and fresh blood splattered. Not far away, the figure of Sword Immortal Yu Hua appeared with a gigantic blood scar on his chest that was so deep that his bones could be seen. It was a shocking sight. If he had been half a step slower, he would have been torn into two by the horned dragon's claw. On the other side, Perfected Immortal Wu Feng's face was pale and his golden armor was filled with cracks. If not for that golden armor, he would have died earlier on. The body of the horned dragon was way too strong, as though it had already surpassed the Perfected One realm. The King realm was above the Perfected One realm. Could the horned dragon before him not be a true Dragon One but a Dragon King? Thanks for reading on MYBO XNOVL C0M. Chapter 1890, Defeating Perfected Immortals. Chapter 1890, Defeating Perfected Immortals. If the horned dragon before him was truly a Dragon King, it did not make sense either. A king was at a level far beyond the Perfected One realm. Any king could rule over a territory with absolute dominance. The Great Jin Immortal Kingdom was ruled by a supreme immortal king and had more than 1,000 cities under his rule. Its territory was vast and the Dragon Abyss Star was only an insignificant remote star beneath Green Cloud County. The power and authority of a king was evident. Logically speaking, any king could suppress the three perfected immortals with ease. However, the horned dragon before him had not used any techniques that belonged to a king the entire time and merely fought against the three perfected immortals with its powerful body. The three perfected immortals were puzzled as well. That was also the reason why they did not retreat right away. But now, Sword Immortal Yu Hua was almost torn apart by the horned dragon, while perfected Immortal Wu Feng's face was pale and his golden armor was almost crippled. Both of them wanted to retreat. Right then, without the entanglement of Sword Immortal Yu Hua and perfected Immortal Wu Feng, the horned dragon let out a deafening roar in the direction of Meng Yao. Roar! The dragon roar reverberated through the world. The entire abyss was collapsing continuously as the stone walls on both sides shattered and countless rocks rolled down. Bam! Meng Yao's expression changed and one of the strings on the pitch-black zither in her hand snapped. A trickle of blood splattered on the ancient zither. The snapped zither string nearly severed all 10 of her fingers. Meng Yao's face turned pale with shock and anger. As one of the 4 great fairies, a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal sect and a princess of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, she had a noble status and powerful strength with countless followers. Up till this point of her cultivation, she had never suffered such a blow. Even if some paragons were slightly stronger than her, they would not be overbearing and embarrass her. If Meng Yao knew that the horned dragon was controlled by a mere grade 6 black immortal in reality, she would explode. Su Zimo was not someone who would give chances to women. Furthermore, although Fairy Meng Yao was devastatingly beautiful and had an extraordinary aura, she was no different from Sword Immortal Yu Hua and perfected Immortal Wu Feng. If he was outside earlier on, his consciousness would have been searched by Fairy Meng Yao as well. In the lower world, after Su Zimo entered the cultivation world, he overwhelmed strong foes of the same level and suppressed all the paragons and monster incarnates. He fought all the way and rose against the tides, subduing the primordial races, killing Blood Fiend and being conferred the title of the Eternal Martial Emperor. However, he had never suffered such humiliation. It did not matter if they were perfected immortals or fairies. Since they wanted to be above him, he would overturn them. The wounds left behind by Sword Immortal Yu Hua on Su Zimo's Dao heart had already healed silently. Swoosh! Sensing that the situation was bad, Sword Immortal Yu Hua decisively channeled his secret skill and transformed into a sword beam that soared into the skies, leaving the Dragon Abyss Star. Almost at the same time, perfected Immortal Wu Feng and Meng Yao fled as well. The horned dragon roared and its massive body spiraled upwards, chasing after them. The moment Sword Immortal Yu Hua and the other 2 escaped from the Dragon Abyss Star, the horned dragon caught up to them. Boom! 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 Su Zimo controlled the horned dragon and fought against the 3 perfected immortals in the starry skies once more. At that moment, almost all the living beings on the Dragon Abyss Star looked up at the battle in the starry skies with shocked expressions. What sort of a level is this battle at? By the looks of it, it might be a battle between heaven immortals. Many cultivators in Dragon Abyss City discussed. Absolutely impossible. A cultivator shook his head. Didn't you see how many earth immortals and heaven immortals fled in fright earlier on? There's a high chance that the 4 of them are perfected immortal experts. Perfected immortal. Many cultivators lamented with envy. The city lord of Dragon Abyss City was only a grade 9 black immortal and perfected immortal experts were way too far away from them. Snow Wind Ridge. Duan Tianliang, Xie Qingying, Yu Hao, and the others were watching as well. Ha! Duan Tianliang grinned. If I can speak to such an expert, it'll probably be enough for me to brag for the rest of my life. A dragon does not live with a snake. Yu Hao shook his head. Furthermore, in the eyes of these experts, we can't even be considered as snakes. We're just insignificant ants. In the starry skies. The blood of perfected immortals splattered continuously and the battle was almost over. Even the 3 perfected immortals were completely suppressed by the horned dragon. At the end of the battle, the 3 perfected immortals were severely injured. Helpless, the 3 of them had no choice but to use their life-saving methods and escape in different directions, looking wretched like stray dogs. In the blink of an eye, there was only a horned dragon left in the starry skies. Compared to the vast starry skies, the 100,000 feet long horned dragon seemed extremely tiny. Su Zimo did not chase after them. The azure dragon in his consciousness was almost non-existent and its power was depleted. It could not hold on any longer. Through the eyes of the horned dragon, Su Zimo looked at the mysterious and vast starry skies around him with a hint of anticipation. He did not know how long it would take before he could travel through the starry skies freely. At that time, he could head to the great wilderness and meet Dai Yu. Su Zimo looked at the starry skies around him reluctantly. With a thought of his spirit consciousness, his massive dragon body vanished from the starry skies. When they reappeared, Su Zimo and the horned dragon had returned to that strange space. Post this battle, the azure dragon's aura was weak. After dragging Su Zimo's essence spirit out of the horned dragon's consciousness, it returned to the bronze square tripod and was silent. The dragon eyes on the outer wall of the bronze square tripod closed once more. Su Zimo's essence spirit returned to his green lotus true body as well. The creation green lotus was indeed powerful. Even without the control of Su Zimo's essence spirit, the green lotus true body did not stop his regeneration process. In that battle, his injuries healed significantly. Su Zimo could already move freely. After pondering for a moment, he left this place and arrived in the abyss to retrieve his storage bag. He collected the storage bags of the earth immortals and heaven immortals who died in the abyss. The abyss was empty and silent with corpses strewn everywhere. It was a mess without any signs of life. The earth and heaven immortals from earlier on had already escaped. Those experts fled in a hurry and did not dare to linger. In fact, they did not even clean up the battlefield or take away the storage bags of the many dead cultivators. This was a great gain for Su Zimo. Before long, Su Zimo surveyed the battlefield and obtained a total of 23 Heaven Immortal storage bags and more than 500 Earth Immortal storage bags. Of course, those storage bags had the spirit consciousness imprints of Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals and he could not see what was inside yet. However, no matter what, he had benefited way too much from this trip to the abyss. The storage bags were secondary. The greatest improvement was the change in the bronze square tripod. The bronze square tripod had devoured the god fiend's soul summoning banner and was still repairing the crack on the second tripod wall. Once the second tripod wall was repaired, he would be able to comprehend more of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Furthermore, Su Zimo wanted to see if there were any other patterns on the second wall of the bronze square tripod to verify a guess in his mind. Chapter 1891, Southern Mingli Fire. Chapter 1891, Southern Mingli Fire. When Su Zimo returned to the space in the abyss, he was momentarily stunned. He looked at the scene before him in shock and remained silent for a long time. The gigantic horned dragon corpse that was initially in this space was undergoing a huge change. Golden scales fell off and shattered as its flesh withered rapidly and began to rot. Before long, the horned dragon's corpse was riddled with holes and no longer possessed the same grandeur in the battle against the three perfected immortals earlier on. Sigh. Su Zimo sighed gently and vaguely understood what had happened. Even someone as strong as the horned dragon before him could not match the passage of time. This horned dragon was initially sealed beneath the mountain rocks in this space without seeing the light of day. Without any external disturbances, its corpse could still remain intact. There were many ancient corpses in the abyss. Although they looked intact on the surface, a gentle touch from an external force would turn the corpses into dust without even a storage bag left. It was already incredible that this horned dragon could fight against the three perfected immortals with its final bit of energy after leaving this place. About 2 hours later, the horned dragon was left with nothing but a faint golden skeleton that extended thousands of kilometers across the world. Su Zimo bowed towards the corpse of the horned dragon. If not for the horned dragon, he would not have been able to defeat the three perfected immortals and the injuries on his Tao heart would not have healed in a short period of time. If not for this space, he might not even be alive right now. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo suddenly recalled something. Given how strong this horned dragon was, there should be many treasures left behind. The space before him should have been created by this horned dragon. In other words, there was a high chance that any treasures left behind by the horned dragon were in this space. At that thought, Su Zimo was invigorated and explored the depths of the space. After traveling for almost half a day, a large number of golden palace structures appeared before him, majestic and ancient. The palace structures could not defeat the power of time either and were dilapidated, leaving nothing but ruins. However, just as Su Zimo was about to enter the area to check, he felt a tremendous resistance ahead. No matter what methods he used, he could not advance any further. He could not even use his spirit consciousness to scan. Strange. Su Zimo murmured thoughtfully, could there be a cultivation restriction in this space? He tried many more times to no avail before giving up temporarily. In his consciousness, the bronze square tripod was still refining and absorbing the power of the god fiend's soul summoning banner. After devouring the many spirit treasures scattered in the abyss, the second tripod wall was already half repaired. According to this trend, there was a high chance that the second wall of the tripod would recover after absorbing the entire god fiend's soul summoning banner. At the same time, a trace of life appeared on the second tripod wall. The situation was similar to the awakening of the azure dragon on the first tripod wall. However, the auras of the two living beings were completely different. To be precise, the life force on the second tripod wall carried an unusual heat. Su Zimo was in no hurry to leave. This space also contained heaven and earth essence chi that was not weaker than the dragon abyss star. Furthermore, there was no danger cultivating here. Even the three perfected immortals did not discover the existence of this space. This was a perfect place for seclusion. Without hesitation, Su Zimo looked for a green stone and assumed a lotus position. He began to consume essence condensation pills and cultivated while waiting for the bronze square tripod. A year later. In his consciousness, the bronze square tripod vibrated gently and Su Zimo woke up from his seclusion. Opening his eyes, he took out the bronze square tripod and focused his gaze. The second wall of the bronze square tripod was completely repaired. Indeed, there were mysterious Sanskrit words recorded on the inner walls that were perfectly connected to the previous section of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Su Zimo looked at the words on the inner wall. The Sanskrit words turned into golden lights and entered his glabella. Every single Sanskrit word of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra contained endless logic and wisdom. Unknowingly, Su Zimo was immersed in his comprehension. When he woke up once more, another year had passed. Su Zimo let out a long breath and lamented. He had once absorbed and refined a sal tree leaf and was extremely perceptive with deep attainments in Buddhism. Even so, he had only comprehended a small half of the Sanskrit of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra in a year. He did not know the background of this Buddhist sutra. Su Zimo shifted his gaze towards the outer wall of the bronze square tripod. Indeed, there was a pattern etched on the repaired outer wall. The pattern depicted a fiery red bird that burned with flames. Although it resembled a divine phoenix, the aura it emitted was even more terrifying. If one of the four sacred beasts, the azure dragon, was etched on the first wall, the fiery red bird on the second wall should be another one of the four sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. Suddenly, the vermilion bird on the wall of the tripod opened its eyes and two flames shot into Su Zimo's eyes. Instantly, a secret skill appeared in Su Zimo's mind and he chanted instinctively, Southern Mingli Fire. The flames of the vermilion bird were even stronger than the flames of the divine phoenixes and even taboo Feng Huang. Although Su Zimo inherited the dragon phoenix essence spirit, he lost his dragon phoenix true body and his dragon phoenix bloodline. That meant that he lost the dragon phoenix flames. But now, he had obtained the Southern Mingli Fire that was even more terrifying than the dragon phoenix flames. Su Zimo was delighted. He continued to cultivate in seclusion and consumed essence condensation pills to cultivate the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and the Southern Mingli Fire secret skill. Unknowingly, he had already cultivated for a full 20 years in this abyss. What was worth celebrating was that he had already comprehended more than half of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra in the past 20 years and had successfully cultivated the Southern Mingli Fire secret skill. However, Su Zimo's cultivation realm advanced slowly. Although the green lotus true body was strong, the heaven and earth essence chi required for its growth far surpassed the need of other cultivators. In 20 years, Su Zimo had consumed close to 2 million essence condensation pills. However, his cultivation did not increase much, as though he had encountered a bottleneck. I'm still only at the level 6 black essence realm. There are still 3 minor realms to break through to the earth essence realm, but they seem far from reach. Su Zimo sighed internally. The joy of repairing the bronze square tripod and obtaining the ancient sutra and secret skill had faded significantly over the years. The green lotus true body had brought too many benefits to Su Zimo. However, at the same time, it restricted his growth. The conditions for the creation green lotus to grow were way too stringent, and the heaven and earth essence chi required was far beyond what ordinary people could imagine. Of course, if he continued cultivating and consuming essence condensation pills, Su Zimo still had a chance of breaking through to the level 7 black essence realm. However, that might take hundreds or even thousands of years. To the cultivators of the Dragon Abyss Star, it was already extremely fast if they could break through a minor realm in 1,000 years. However, it was difficult for Su Zimo to accept that. He wanted to raise his cultivation as soon as possible so that he could leave the Dragon Abyss Star and meet Daiyu in the shortest possible time. Chapter 1892, Taboo Mystic Classic. Chapter 1892, Taboo Mystic Classic. Feeling a little frustrated, Su Zimo put aside his cultivation for the time being and recalled the scene of the horned dragon fighting against the 3 perfected immortals. That battle was almost entirely led by the Azure Dragon, and his essence spirit did not play much of a role. However, the feeling of experiencing it personally was extremely rare. The many combat techniques and killing techniques displayed by the Azure Dragon seemed to be imprinted in his mind. Of course, the combat techniques of the Azure Dragon could only be released in the body of a dragon. If Su Zimo wanted to release the combat techniques of the Azure Dragon with his green lotus true body, he would have to polish and deduce those techniques continuously, slowly transforming them into combat techniques suitable for his green lotus true body. In this abyss space, Su Zimo would wave his arms, bend his fingers as well as twist and turn from time to time. He fell into a mysterious state. Su Zimo had the comprehension potential, talent and ability. He had a dragon phoenix essence spirit to begin with and was no stranger to the habits of the dragon race. He had also established the martial Dao in the Dao inheritance ground of Tianhuang mainland. Those experiences were his most precious wealth. Su Zimo was so immersed in his deduction that he even forgot about the passage of time. A long time later, Su Zimo suddenly felt dizzy and woke up from his deduction state with an enlightened expression. Unknowingly, a year had passed. The long period of deduction over the past year had taken a huge toll on Su Zimo's essence spirit. Even with the nourishment of the creation lotus platform, his essence spirit could not withstand it and turned extremely weak, almost fainting. Of course, he had benefited immensely from the deduction in the past year. Roar! Suddenly, Su Zimo opened his mouth and let out a dragon roar. The world trembled slightly and the surrounding boulders shattered one after another, unable to withstand the dragon roar. Although his cultivation realm was still at the level 6 black essence realm, the power contained in that dragon roar was even stronger and more dignified than his dragon phoenix roar from earlier on. Su Zimo fused the strength release technique of the Azure Dragon and Dragon Phoenix into his body before transforming it into this dragon roar secret skill. That was naturally not his only gain in the past year. Suddenly, Su Zimo thought of Daiyu. Back then, the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness left behind by Daiyu must have undergone countless deductions before it finally evolved into a cultivation technique for a mortal like him to cultivate. Daiyu had spent a lot of effort and energy on this. For the past year, Su Zimo had been in a state of deduction. He did not cultivate and his cultivation realm did not advance at all. He took out some essence condensation pills from his storage bag and prepared to continue cultivating in seclusion. When his spirit consciousness swept through his storage bag, he suddenly caught sight of dozens of essence spirit stones in the corner. The heaven and earth essence chi contained by essence spirit stones was extremely pure and rich. The value of one essence spirit stone was even worth 10,000 essence condensation pills. If only I could absorb the spirit chi in the essence spirit stones. My cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Taking out an essence spirit stone, Su Zimo played with it casually and murmured. Of course, he also knew that black immortals could not absorb the heaven and earth essence chi in essence spirit stones. Firstly, the black immortal realm was not high enough. Essence spirit stones could only be used to cultivate after one became an earth immortal. Secondly, although the essence chi in the essence spirit stone was pure, it was extremely violent. If a black immortal absorbed the heaven and earth essence chi within, their flesh and meridians would not be able to withstand it and they would explode on the spot. Those thoughts flashed through Su Zimo's mind, but he did not take them to heart. He had just consumed an essence condensation pill and started cultivating the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Suddenly, Su Zimo shuddered and opened his eyes with a bewildered expression. The moment he channeled the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, a change happened. A wisp of pure heaven and earth essence chi from the essence spirit stone in his palm surged into his body through his palm. Worried that it was his imagination, Su Zimo channeled his cultivation technique once more. The essence chi within the essence spirit stone was indeed restless. How could this be? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He was only at the level 6 black essence realm and under normal circumstances, there was no way he could absorb the essence chi in the essence spirit stone. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled something Dai Yu told him back in Tianhuang mainland. If black essence realm cultivators wanted to absorb the power of essence spirit stones, they would have to cultivate the few taboo mystic classics of the upper world. Could the Prajna Nirvana Sutra within the ancient tripod be one of the taboo mystic classics? Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly with a shocked expression. Back when he was in seclusion in the desolate lands, he had tried to test if the green lotus true body could absorb the essence chi in the essence spirit stones. However, there was no reaction. But now, his cultivation realm was the same as before. The reason why he could absorb the power of the essence spirit stone was because he had cultivated an additional section of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. So, that sutra was a taboo mystic classic of the upper world. That would also explain why the power of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra could subdue yin and yang and fuse the dragon phoenix and green lotus essence spirits. According to Dai Yu, the few taboo mystic classics were ranked alongside the legendary peerless divine powers. Su Zimo was delighted when he thought about that. If he could refine essence spirit stones to cultivate, he would definitely be able to break through the bottleneck before him and his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. However, apart from joy, he was also increasingly curious about the bronze square tripod. What was the origin of the ancient tripod? The outer walls were etched with the azure dragon and vermilion bird, and the inner walls were etched with a taboo mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries. Putting that curiosity aside for the time being, Su Zimo took a deep breath and gripped the essence spirit stone in his palm, channeling the Prajna Nirvana Sutra with all his might. Streaks of pure and berserk heaven and earth essence chi surged into Su Zimo's body through his palm and into his organs and meridians. Bang! Su Zimo shuddered and cracks appeared on the surface of his green lotus true body, causing a blood mist to burst forth. That power was way too terrifying. The wisps of heaven and earth essence chi seemed to have set off a shocking storm in Su Zimo's body, sweeping through his body and destroying all life. Thankfully, Su Zimo was the green lotus true body. If it was any other body, it would not have been able to withstand that power and would have exploded. In truth, Su Zimo did not know. Even if some supreme experts of the upper world possessed the taboo mystic classics and nurtured legacy disciples, they would definitely not dare to let the latter absorb essence spirit stones to cultivate at the level 6 black essence realm. The risk was too great and almost no one could survive it. These legacy disciples would have countless treasures, elixirs and immortal herbs to temper their tendons and bones, refine their bodies and cleanse their marrow. Typically, Only at the level 9 Black Essence realm, and they were at the brink of breaking through, they would use Essence Spirit Stones to cultivate and advance to the Earth Essence realm under the watch of their seniors. Su Zimo frowned and trembled slightly with a pained expression. The Essence Chi in the Essence Spirit Stone surged into his body and caused immense damage to the Green Lotus True body. However, at the same time, the powerful regeneration capabilities of the Green Lotus True body healed his injuries continuously. Between the repeated destruction and healing, the Green Lotus True body's absorption and refinement of the Essence Chi in the Essence Spirit Stone achieved an almost perfect effect. The Green Lotus True body grew rapidly. Su Zimo's cultivation realm was also rising steadily. Chapter 1893, Brewing Storm. Chapter 1893, Brewing Storm. Time flew and 30 years had passed since the change on the Dragon Abyss star. That was an unprecedented event on the Dragon Abyss star, and all the living beings on it trembled in fear. The change in the Abyss first attracted many Earth Immortals before Heaven Immortals appeared. In the end, even legendary perfected immortal experts descended while a golden divine dragon that was 100,000 feet long was provoked. The battle in the starry skies shocked the living beings of the Dragon Abyss star so much that they would never forget it. This battle had a huge impact on the Dragon Abyss star as well. There were many black immortals who died in the Abyss on the Dragon Abyss star. It was said that a commander of Dragon Abyss City died in the Abyss. Up till now, that Abyss had always been a forbidden ground in Dragon Abyss City, and no living being dared to step foot into it. After the massive battle, the many Earth and Heaven Immortals had already dispersed. However, many cultivators and living beings on Dragon Abyss City did not dare to act rashly still. Be it the 8 major factions or the 4 great bandits, almost all of them chose to lie dormant, afraid that they would attract a calamity. It was only after 30 years, when there were no more Earth or Heaven Immortals, that the Dragon Abyss star gradually returned to normal. Many fights and killings between cultivators reappeared, and some factions were tempted to make moves as well. In a mountain range, ancient trees stood lushly. Under the shroud of the night, the forest shone with a faint green light. It was extremely terrifying, and the air was filled with a murderous aura. "Wind Flame, why are you looking for me?" Suddenly, a voice sounded from above. A figure stood on a branch at the top of the ancient tree, swaying with the branches as though he was stuck to it. In the depths of the forest, a gigantic shadow gradually walked out. It was a black scale fiend wolf that was dozens of feet tall. On the back of the black scale fiend wolf sat a cultivator. It was the first boss of the evil wolf army, Wind Flame. "Sanya, have you forgotten that Blood Sun Valley was destroyed 40 years ago?" Wind Flame asked. Sanya was the Dao title of the gang leader of Goshawk Gang. Fufu. Sanya stood at the top of the ancient tree and chuckled. "All these years, you've been extremely close to Blood Sun Valley and worked with them. Our Goshawk Gang has nothing to do with Blood Sun Valley." Wind Flame said, "You're right. However, don't forget that you and I helped a lot back when Sky Pillar Stronghold, Wind Cloud Gang and Honor Villa were destroyed. And now, the territorial lord of Snow Wind Ridge is a survivor of the 3 major factions back then." Sanya was silent. Wind Flame continued, "Right now, after Snow Wind Ridge destroyed Blood Sun Valley and devoured it, its strength and reputation are rising continuously. If Snow Wind Ridge truly grows stronger, do you think those survivors of the past will let us off?" "Humph." Sanya harumphed coldly. "The reason why Snow Wind Ridge is so famous today is because of that Su Zimo who appeared out of nowhere. Right now, Su Zimo has already died in that abyss for 30 years. What's a mere Snow Wind Ridge worth?" Wind Flame said, "In my opinion, it's better to get rid of Snow Wind Ridge as soon as possible lest they continue to grow into trouble. Furthermore, Snow Wind Ridge has accumulated countless cultivation resources in their territory after destroying Blood Sun Valley. After destroying Snow Wind Ridge, we'll split the cultivation resources evenly. It'll be enough for our 2 armies to cultivate for many years, and our strength will increase significantly." Another person walked out from the forest and said in a deep voice, as long as our two armies join forces, we'll definitely be able to flatten Snow Wind Ridge with ease. The person who spoke was the second boss of the evil wolf army. Oh. You've already cultivated to the level 8 Black Essence realm. Sangya swept his spirit consciousness across the second boss and was slightly surprised. Gang leader Sangya, you sure are sharp. The second boss smiled gently. Notwithstanding the fact that Su Zimo is already dead, even if he's still alive, including your vice gang leader, the four of us grade 8 Black Immortals can kill him together. Sangya pouted and said with conviction, even Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals were not spared from that unforeseen event 30 years ago. As a grade 6 Black Immortal, he must have definitely died in that abyss. It'll be strange if he's still alive. Windflame asked, in that case, are you agreed, brother Sangya? Sangya pondered for a moment before nodding. No problem. In 10 days, our two armies will gather and flatten Snow Wind Ridge. All right. Windflame burst into laughter. Snow Wind Ridge. For cultivators of the upper world, 30 years passed in the blink of an eye. Over the years, although the number of people in Snow Wind Ridge increased continuously and their strength increased steadily, the cultivation realms of everyone in Snow Wind Ridge did not change significantly. The territorial lord of Snow Wind Ridge, Yu Hao, was still only a grade 7 Black Immortal. The greatest change was that Yu Hao and Xia Qingying were already married and became Dao companions. After destroying Blood Sun Valley 40 years ago, the two of them were already in love and had feelings for one another. It was only natural that they were Dao companions now. Outside the hall, the wind and snow howled. Yu Hao had a calm expression as he stood at the entrance, looking at the snow outside in silence with a hint of worry. Light footsteps sounded behind him. Husband, what are you worried about? Xia Qingying could tell that Yu Hao was troubled and came to his side, asking gently. Yu Hao turned around and smiled at Xia Qingying without saying anything. Are you worried about fellow Daoist Su? Xia Qingying asked again before sighing. Sigh, there's no news of fellow Daoist Su for so many years. He's probably doomed. Brother Su is my benefactor. Back then, I was the one who did not stop him and allowed him to take the risk alone. Yu Hao lowered his head slightly in self-blame. It's not your fault. Given fellow Daoist Su's character and methods, if he wants to go, who can stop him? Xia Qingying consoled. Yu Hao said, over the years, although Snow Wind Ridge has been developing steadily and its strength has been increasing continuously, there has always been a huge latent danger. The reason why Snow Wind Ridge was able to gain a foothold on the Dragon Abyss Star after destroying Blood Sun Valley without anyone challenging us for the past 10 years was entirely because of Brother Su's notorious reputation. But now that Brother Su's fate is unknown and Snow Wind Ridge lacks a top-tier expert like a grade 8 Black Immortal, I'm afraid trouble is about to descend. Xia Qingying smiled. Snow Wind Ridge has you. Cultivate diligently and try to break through to the level 8 Black Essence realm as soon as possible. Yu Hao shook his head. Given my current cultivation, I'll need at least 1,000 years to reach grade 8 Black Immortal even if I have sufficient resources. I'm worried that Snow Wind Ridge won't be able to last till then. How can that be? Xia Qingying smiled. We've just been rebuilt for dozens of years and don't have any deep feud with the major factions. I believe they won't attack Snow Wind Ridge for no reason either. Yu Hao looked into the distance and said softly, I'm not worried about the major factions, but the two bandit groups. Chapter 1894, Arrival of a Great Enemy. Chapter 1894, Arrival of a Great Enemy. It was dark in Snow Wind Ridge. Most of the spirit farmers were already resting and 10 squads of guards patrolled the surroundings of Snow Wind Ridge constantly, guarding the land. Brother Han, what's up with the territorial lord recently? Why did he send so many people to patrol? That's right. Previously, there were at most 3 squads patrolling at night. Now that there are 10 squads guarding, it's making people nervous. There might be something going on. The cultivator surnamed Han said in a deep voice, I heard that every night, Commander Shenfei will lead hundreds of people to patrol the area within a 5 kilometers radius. Is it that serious? In my opinion, you guys are worrying for nothing, another cultivator laughed. Bandits. We're under attack. Suddenly, a sharp and hurried shout sounded in Snow Wind Ridge. Immediately after, a gigantic flame surged into the skies and exploded in midair, piercing through the dark night. This was a warning signal from Snow Wind Ridge. The 10 squads of patrolling cultivators were shocked. The warning signal would not be released unless it was absolutely necessary. This indicated that they were faced with a great enemy. Hurry, inform everyone. The cultivator surnamed Han made a prompt decision and ordered. Almost at the same time, flames lit up in the initially pitch-black Snow Wind Ridge and countless cultivators were jolted awake. Instantly, Snow Wind Ridge turned incomparably noisy. Yu Hao's figure flashed in midair. Black immortals required a lot of essence chi to hover in midair. However, Yu Hao couldn't care less and said in a deep voice, Everyone of Snow Wind Ridge, don't panic. Listen to my orders and gather in the hall. Summon your dermic treasures and prepare to face the enemy. At the same time, Yu Hao took out 7 talismans from his storage bag and injected essence chi to release them. The 7 talismans turned into streams of light and split into 7 directions, disappearing into the night. For the past few days, Yu Hao had an ominous feeling that seemed as though it was a hunch. Therefore, the moment Shenfei released the warning signal, Yu Hao appeared right away and sent out the messenger talismans. That might be Snow Wind Ridge's only hope. Wenjun, follow me to receive Shenfei. Yu Hao turned to look at Gu Wenjun, who was speeding over not far away. All right. Gu Wenjun nodded without hesitation. Husband, I'll go with you. Xia Qingying rushed over and said hurriedly. Yu Hao shook his head. Stay here. Snow Wind Ridge needs someone to take charge of the situation. He paused and thought for a moment before saying, If we don't return, don't hesitate. Immediately. I'll definitely wait for you to return. Xia Qingying interrupted Yu Hao and said firmly. Yu Hao reached out and caressed Xia Qingying's cheek gently, his eyes filled with deep reluctance and love. Thereafter, he took a deep breath and made up his mind, turning to leave. Gu Wenjun followed closely behind. The two of them rode on demon beasts and had just arrived at the entrance of Snow Wind Ridge when a gigantic body stood up beside them. It extended its palm and helped Yu Hao and Little Fatty up. A level 7 Black Essence Realm Silver Giant. I'll do it. After saying that, the Silver Giant placed Yu Hao and Gu Wenjun on his shoulders and strode in the direction of the signal. That single step of the Silver Giant covered dozens of feet. It was much faster than their demon beasts. Before long, Yu Hao felt the ground tremble violently. Howl. A series of terrifying wolf howls sounded from afar. It's the evil wolf army. Gu Wenjun said hatefully. The evil wolf army was also one of the culprits behind the destruction of their 3 major factions back then. It'll be fine if it's just the evil wolf army. Yu Hao looked at the distant horizon and murmured softly without finishing his sentence. Before long, pairs of ghastly green eyes appeared in the night ahead. They were dense and a malevolent aura surged over. Even in the night, dust could be seen billowing. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Although the Silver Giant had an extraordinary bloodline and powerful combat strength, he still felt a sense of trepidation against such an apocalyptic army. Even if he was a giant, he would be trampled to death by such a torrent. At the front of the torrent, dozens of figures were sprinting wildly, as though they could be drowned by the torrent at any moment. Their leader was Shenfei. Second brother, I'm here. Yu Hao roared and leaped up, summoning his gigantic axe from his storage bag and charging forward. Gu Wenjun's face was a little pale. However, she mustered her courage and charged forward. Big brother, hurry and retreat. Don't bother about me. Shenfei shrieked. In that short period of time, a few more figures were caught up by the army behind and drowned by the sharp claws of the black scale fiend wolves. Yu Hao did not hesitate. If he did not advance, Shen Fei would definitely die before he could escape to Snow Wind Ridge. Bang! Yu Hao wielded his gigantic axe and descended from the skies, crossing Shen Fei's head to slash down viciously at the army behind. If it was a one-on-one fight, it would be difficult for any grade 7 black immortal to withstand the power and aura released by Yu Hao. However, the moment Yu Hao's gigantic axe descended, hundreds of dermic treasures charged over. Yu Hao shuddered and was sent flying by the tremendous force. His palm was torn and he almost could not hold on to the gigantic axe. The torrent did not show any signs of stopping and continued surging forward. Gu Wenjun's attack was drowned in the torrent without causing any waves. Bang! 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 Just as Yu Hao and the others were about to be devoured by the evil wolf army, a gigantic figure charged over. It shone with silver light and roared repeatedly. The silver giant attacked. The cultivators of the evil wolf army at the front were knocked over by the silver giant. Even the black scale fiend wolves could not defend against the immense power of the silver giant, and chaos broke out right in front of the army. Let's go together. With that breather, Yu Hao roared at the silver giant. He knew in his heart that the few of them were completely helpless against the army before them. The silver giant waved his fists in the evil wolf army and fought in all directions. Initially, he charged into the army and killed many of them, causing some chaos. However, in the blink of an eye, even more and even stronger evil wolf army soldiers attacked. In a few breaths, the silver giant was covered in injuries. The silver giant roared once more and charged out before he was completely surrounded. With his bloodied hands, he pulled Yu Hao and the other two and fled towards Snow Wind Ridge. Fresh blood flowed from the silver giant's body. The silver blood left a clear mark behind him that shone brightly and was extremely striking in the night. Gritting his teeth, the silver giant endured the pain and strode forward wildly. The lights of Snow Wind Ridge were right ahead. Humph. Right then, a cold voice sounded. Let's see where you can escape to. Chapter 1895, Formation. Chapter 1895, Formation. The leader of the evil wolf army, Wind Flame, had a mocking expression as he rode on the tallest black scale fiend wolf and leaped to the front of the army. The black scale fiend wolf was almost comparable to the silver giant in size. That was the alpha of the black scale fiend wolves. If the silver giant was in good condition, the alpha might not be able to catch up to him. But now, the silver giant was covered in injuries and limped. Before long, the alpha caught up to him. Howl. The alpha howled and lunged forward murderously, chomping down on the silver giant's neck. Sensing the evil wind behind him, the silver giant punched in reverse towards the alpha without even turning back. Bang! The silver giant's fist was like a gigantic hammer that smashed heavily on the alpha's head with a dull thud. If that attack had landed on the head of any other demon beast, its brain juice would have ruptured and it would have died on the spot. However, the skulls of wolves were the toughest. There was a layer of black scales on the head of the black scale fiend wolf that was even more indestructible. The silver giant's fist merely made the black scale fiend wolf feel dizzy, but it was not injured. Bastard, you're courting death. Wind Flame's expression darkened as he raised the saber in his hands and slashed forward. The saber beam tore through the void and descended instantly. Yu Hao, Shen Fei, and Gu Wenjun attacked at the same time and summoned their dermic treasures. However, they were sent flying by the saber beam of Wind Flame. Although they were only a single cultivation realm apart, the difference in strength between them was immense. Watch out! Yu Hao exclaimed, but it was too late. The saber beam tore through the dermic treasures of Yu Hao and the other two and paused for a moment before landing on the silver giant's wide back. Shing! Fresh blood splattered and silver light surged. A gigantic wound so deep that his bones could be seen appeared on the silver giant's back. From his left shoulder to his right waist, it was a shocking sight and almost sliced him into two. The silver giant's body swayed and his legs went limp, almost kneeling on the ground. The blood that spewed from the wound on his back splattered on the faces of the Alpha and Wind Flame, causing the man and wolf to pause for a moment. The silver giant cried out in pain and seized the opportunity to carry Yu Hao and the other two forward. Snow Wind Ridge was right ahead. Screech. Suddenly, a piercing cry sounded in midair. Immediately after, a large shadow enveloped down, blocking the starlight and killing intent surged. Yu Hao and the other two looked up instinctively. In midair, a gigantic goshawk flapped its wings and swooped down, charging towards the silver giant on the ground. On the neck of the goshawk sat a figure. It was the gang leader of the goshawk gang, Sangya. You survivors should have died a long time ago. Sangya sneered. The goshawk's gaze was sharp and shone with a cold glint. A pair of menacing sharp claws extended from its abdomen and its joints protruded with immense strength as it grabbed towards the silver giant. You guys leave first. Yu Hao took a deep breath and leaped down from the silver giant. He channeled his essence spirit and conjured a lesser divine power, pointing it at the goshawk. Immobilize. The lesser divine power, body immobilization technique. Puny tricks. Sangya sneered and waved his sleeves, creating a violent gust of wind as divine power spread. Lesser divine power, wind manipulation. The moment the body immobilization technique descended, it was dispersed by the wild wind and did not affect the goshawk at all. The goshawk was extremely fast and its claws were like lightning as it grabbed Yu Hao below. Yu Hao tried his best to dodge, but his abdomen was still pierced by a sharp claw. Instantly, blood gushed out. Husband. A pained cry sounded from the direction of Snow Wind Ridge. Yu Hao tried his best to look back and shouted with all his might, "Don't worry about me. Activate the formation." Formation? In midair, Sangya was slightly stunned. Right then, a gigantic palm reached over and forcefully saved Yu Hao from the goshawk's sharp claws. His left shoulder was crushed by the goshawk's sharp claws as well. The silver giant protected Yu Hao and the other two and continued sprinting towards Snow Wind Ridge. Finally, the silver giant escorted Yu Hao and the other two back to Snow Wind Ridge and fell into a pool of blood. Behind him was the army of the evil wolf army and the goshawk gang. Densely packed, they swarmed over with a torrential aura like locusts. There were 100,000 of them. There were also hundreds of goshawks circling in midair. This was the special army of the goshawk gang. Although there were only a few hundred of them, they were almost invincible in midair with their goshawks. Many cultivators of Snow Wind Ridge had ashen expressions when they saw that. Although Snow Wind Ridge had grown rapidly over the years, there were less than 20,000 guards in the territory. The guards of Snow Wind Ridge could not defend against the 100,000-strong army of the two great bandits. In fact, some of the Snow Wind Ridge guards even stood out in fear and fled outside, begging for mercy. You guys are stupid. Duan Tianliang could not help but curse, our opponents are bandits who kill people like flies. If you beg for mercy now, you'll definitely die. His words were drowned by the clamor of the army. Not many people could maintain their composure and rationality in the face of a calamity. Mistress, we have to stop them. Otherwise, the morale of the army will be in chaos and they will collapse without a fight. A cultivator could not help but say. Don't stop them. Xia Qingying said coldly with a terrible expression as she looked at the cultivators of Snow Wind Ridge who fled and begged for mercy. As Duan Tianliang had said, the cultivators of Snow Wind Ridge who escaped died the fastest. The 100,000-strong evil wolf army and goshawk gang ignored them and trampled over, turning the cultivators into sludge. When the silver giant, Yu Hao and the others returned to Snow Wind Ridge, Xia Qingying pursed her lips tightly and conjured hand seals repeatedly. Essence chi burst forth from her fingertips and entered the ground. Activate. Xia Qingying hollered softly. Whoosh. Suddenly, a mysterious glow lit up in the area and a shimmering barrier was formed rapidly at the outer perimeter of Snow Wind Ridge. The barrier split Snow Wind Ridge and the 100,000-strong army outside into two. The 100,000-strong Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang were aggressive and could not stop their momentum at all. They could even charge through a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, let alone a barrier in front of them. Boom! 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 A loud bang sounded as the 100,000-strong army charged forward. Waves appeared on the barrier like water ripples and vibrated continuously. Many Snow Wind Ridge cultivators were scared out of their wits. However, everyone was shocked to discover that none of the 100,000-strong Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang could break through the barrier. Outside the barrier, countless cultivators fell to the ground and were trampled by the army behind. The army at the front could not charge in. The army at the back did not understand and continued charging. The 100,000-strong army fell into chaos. This single charge caused many cultivators of the Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang to die under the trampling of their own armies. Even the leader of the Evil Wolf Army, Wind Flame, was almost drowned and trampled into sludge by the 100,000-strong army behind him. Chapter 1896, Assault. Chapter 1896, Assault. Wind Flame rode on the Alpha and broke free from the chaotic army. He was already in a sorry state with a terrible expression. Screech! A series of piercing cries sounded from midair. Hundreds of goshawks swooped down in succession towards the cultivators beneath Snow Wind Ridge. However, the barrier outside Snow Wind Ridge did not only defend against the 100,000-strong army at the front, even the skies above Snow Wind Ridge had a dome-like barrier. When the goshawks struck the dome, they merely caused ripples on the barrier and could not break through. On the contrary, the goshawks were dizzy from the collision. Some of the goshawks fell and were drowned by the 100,000-strong army before they could take off, dying on the spot. The cultivators of Snow Wind Ridge were all pale. Some of the cultivators were so close to the 100,000-strong Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang that their faces turned pale. There was only a single barrier as thin as cicada wings between them. However, that barrier blocked all 100,000 cultivators. Ha 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 ha. Duan Tianliang could not help but burst into laughter and shout, "Everyone, don't panic. This is a trump card left behind by Boss Su to deal with these bandits." Xia Qingying heaved a sigh of relief as well with a sense of trepidation. After destroying Blood Sun Valley, Su Zimo cultivated while comprehending a formation. It was only after 10 years that Su Zimo managed to set up the formation around Snow Wind Ridge. Thereafter, Su Zimo imparted the formation to Yu Hao and Xia Qingying. However, neither of them had deep attainments in array formations. The two of them had only learned the dermic art to activate the formation when the change in the abyss of the Dragon Abyss Star occurred and Su Zimo left. Actually, prior to this, even Yu Hao and Xia Qingying did not know how powerful this formation could be. To think that this formation could defend against an army of 100,000. Of course, it was also lucky that Yu Hao sensed something beforehand and strengthened their defenses, even sending Shen Fei to patrol within a radius of 5 kilometers. If not for Shen Fei's warning, the 100,000-strong army would have arrived in the dark night. Even with this formation, Snow Wind Ridge would have suffered immense losses. At that thought, Xia Qingying was alarmed and ran towards Yu Hao and the others. Yu Hao laid in Shen Fei's embrace. His face was pale and he frowned. There was a huge hole in his abdomen that was still flowing with blood. "Husband, Hao, are you?" When Xia Qingying saw Yu Hao like this, her eyes reddened and tears streamed down her face. "It's fine, I won't die." Yu Hao grinned and forced a smile. The silver giant at the side sprawled on the ground with a menacing wound on his back. His flesh was overturned and it was a shocking sight. Gu Wenjun was healing the silver giant bit by bit. If not for the silver giant, Yu Hao and the other two would have died. Outside the formation, The 100,000-strong army was in a mess and many people were injured or dead from the trampling. Sangya's gaze was dark. Wind Flame was enraged as well and could not help but roar, "Listen to my orders. All of you, stop." That voice drowned out the clamor of the 100,000-strong army. The evil wolf and goshawk cultivators gradually calmed down and began to retreat, regrouping and reorganizing their formations. To think that there would be an immortal formation in Snow Wind Ridge. Sangya murmured softly, feeling troubled. Those who were proficient in array formations were extremely rare to begin with. Even some formation grandmasters of the lower worlds would have difficulty coming into contact with the immortal formations of the upper world. Wind Flame declared loudly, "Anyone who is proficient in immortal formations, step forward." A moment later, a skinny old man at the level 3 Black Essence realm stood out hesitantly. "Boss, I know a little about array formations. However, I don't know much about immortal formations and I don't know if I can dispel it." The skinny old man laughed dryly. "It's fine." Wind Flame waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "As long as you can dispel this formation, I'll reward you handsomely for your contribution today." "All right, I'll do my best." The skinny old man was invigorated. Wind Flame said in a deep voice, "Evil Wolf Army, listen up. Everyone, disperse and surround Snow Wind Ridge. Not an ant is allowed to leave Snow Wind Ridge." Sangya nodded slowly as well. "Brothers of the Goshawk Gang, do the same. Once the formation is broken, we'll wash Snow Wind Ridge with blood and kill every single one of them. Kill. Kill. Kill." Many bandits roared excitedly with ferocious gazes. The 100,000-strong army moved and surrounded Snow Wind Ridge layer by layer before long. Many cultivators of Snow Wind Ridge were alarmed. If the immortal formation was destroyed, they would not even have a way out. Through the barrier, a skinny old man from the evil wolf army began to patrol the surroundings of the formation. From time to time, he squatted down to check and stopped in his tracks, frowning in deep thought. 2 hours. 4 hours. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Everyone from the evil wolf army was getting impatient. As for everyone from Snow Wind Ridge, they were even more nervous, afraid that the skinny old man would break through the immortal formation. Xia Qingying and Yu Hao had only learned how to activate the formation, but they knew nothing else. Against that, everyone from Snow Wind Ridge could only wait silently. After an entire day, the skinny old man was still sweating profusely as he lingered outside the immortal formation without any activity. The impatience on Wind Flame and Sangya's faces intensified. Finally, Wind Flame could not wait any longer and asked slowly, "Can you do it or not? How long will it take to dispel this immortal formation?" I don't know either." The skinny old man nearly broke out in sweat and said with a trembling voice, "The formation of this immortal formation is truly complicated. I haven't found the formation eye yet." "In that case, you can't dispel this immortal formation?" Wind Flame's expression turned cold as he interrupted with a sinister tone. I definitely can." The skinny old man shuddered in fear and could only grit his teeth and agree. Wind Flame said expressionlessly, "Give me a deadline." Gulping, the skinny old man probed, "A year." The moment he said that, he felt his body turn cold. The skinny old man glanced at Wind Flame only to see the latter's face filled with killing intent. He changed his words hurriedly, half a year. Damn you. Half a year won't do either." Unable to hold it in any longer, Wind Flame cursed and slashed forward with his saber. The saber beam descended and sliced the skinny old man into two, spilling blood and organs all over the ground. Wind Flame and Sangya were filled with killing intent. How could they endure for another half a year? Ha 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 ha. Duan Tianliang could not help but burst into laughter and mock. Half a year to dispel an immortal formation? I'm dying of laughter. Don't be smug. Wind Flame glared at Duan Tianliang, who was laughing, and said coldly, "I'll kill you first after I dispel this immortal formation. Evil Wolf Army, Goshawk Gang, listen up. Attack in shifts day and night. Windflame and Sanya ordered at the same time. Windflame looked at everyone from Snow-Wind Ridge with a murderous aura and said sinisterly, "Let's see how long this lousy formation can last." Chapter 1897, Heaven Immortal Meiji. Chapter 1897, Heaven Immortal Meiji. Black Een Mountain, Meeting Hall. A middle-aged man sat in the middle with a dark expression. He had a mustache that resembled two eyebrows sloping downwards. This was the territorial lord of Black Een Mountain, Ding Yi, a grade 8 black immortal. On both sides of the hall sat the commanders of the Black Een Mountain. Almost all of them were grade 7 black immortals. On Ding Ye's left and right hands sat two protectors who were grade 8 black immortals. When the left protector saw that everyone was present, he stood up and asked with cupped fists, "Territorial Lord, did something happen for you to summon us here today?" Ding Yi waved a talisman between his fingers. "The two great bandits, the Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang, are attacking Snow-Wind Ridge. I've just received a distress letter from Snow-Wind Ridge. What do you guys think?" The moment the news spread, the hall fell into discussions. After Snow-Wind Ridge destroyed Blood Sun Valley, they rose extremely quickly in recent years. To think that they would be targeted by the two great bandits. Humph. Snow-Wind Ridge's previous reputation was merely because of Su Zimo. Now that he's dead, Snow-Wind Ridge isn't worthy of being ranked alongside our major factions. A look of hatred flashed through Ding Ye's eyes when he heard the name Su Zimo. His son, Ding Yu, was killed by Su Zimo on the Dragon Abyss Star. The right protector said in a deep voice, "Territorial Lord, there's no need for us to incur the wrath of the two great bandits because of Snow-Wind Ridge." "That's right." The left protector nodded in agreement. "We don't have any ties with Snow-Wind Ridge. There's no need for us to get involved." Ding Yi nodded. "However, we can go watch the show." Left protector, "Stay behind to guard." Right protector, "Take 500 people with you and follow me to Snow-Wind Ridge to take a look." Twin Dragon Sect. Two men stood side by side at the entrance of the hall. Both of them were tall and sturdy with extraordinary auras. The person on the right had messy hair and a sheathed saber on his back with an unruly expression. It was one of the sect masters of Twin Dragon Sect, Ko Yong. The person on the left was handsome with his black hair tied up and draped down his back. Hands behind his back, he exuded a calm and aloof aura. This was the other sect master, Su Wan's father, Su Jian. "Father, Uncle Ko." Su Wan pursed her lips. "Although Su Zimo is dead, Yu Hao and the others of Snow-Wind Ridge have some ties with me. I want to save them." Su Jian remained silent. Su Wan sighed internally. She knew very well that there was no need for Twin Dragon Sect to save Snow-Wind Ridge. It was truly unwise. Notwithstanding whether they could save Snow-Wind Ridge, if Twin Dragon Sect were to attack, they would definitely offend the two great bandits, the Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang. In the future, there was a high chance that Twin Dragon Sect would be targeted by the two great bandits and would never have peace. Suddenly, Ko Yong turned to look at Su Jian and asked with raised brows, "What do you think?" "My thoughts are the same as yours." Su Jian smiled gently. "Haha." Ko Yong burst into laughter. "In my entire lifetime, you're still the one who knows me best, brother." Su Wan was confused and could not help but ask, "Father, Uncle Ko, have you guys decided?" "Of course." Ko Zhong patted the saber on his back and said in a heroic manner, "Prepare yourself and follow us to meet these bandits." "Father, why are you guys?" Su Wan could not believe it. Su Jian said with a smile, "The four great bandits have massacred the Dragon Abyss Star for many years. However, their whereabouts are unknown and they come and go like the wind. It's difficult to annihilate them. Right now, it's a rare opportunity that the two great bandits are gathered. Even if not for Snow-Wind Ridge, we would have gone to fight them." Apart from Black Een Mountain and Twin Dragon Sect, the other 5 major factions received help from Snow Wind Ridge as well. However, apart from Twin Dragon Sect, the other factions did not make much of a move. Dragon Abyss Star, at the end of the abyss. The moment the 2 great bandits attacked the immortal formation of Snow Wind Ridge, Su Zimo, who was in seclusion in this mysterious space, woke up. Su Zimo left a spirit consciousness imprint on the immortal formation. As long as the immortal formation was activated, he would sense it. Rising, Su Zimo's expression was cold as lightning. Something had happened to Snow Wind Ridge. Before he left, he instructed Yu Hao and Xia Qingying not to activate this immortal formation unless they had no other choice. That was because Essence Spirit Stones were required to activate the immortal formation. Once the Essence Spirit Stones were depleted, the immortal formation would lose its effect. Su Zimo was prepared to rush back immediately. If the immortal formation was operating normally, the energy in the formation eye and Essence Spirit Stones would be enough to last dozens of years. However, if external forces were to attack continuously, the consumption of Essence Spirit Stones would also become extremely intense and might not last long. All these years, Su Zimo had consumed essence condensation pills and cultivated with Essence Spirit Stones, causing his cultivation realm to increase rapidly. If he cultivated normally, even his Green Lotus true body would take hundreds or even 1,000 years to break through to the level 7 Black Essence realm. However, he had already broken through 3 years ago and cultivated to the level 7 Black Essence realm. As for his Essence Spirit, it was at the terrifying level 9 Black Essence realm. This process took him less than 30 years. Of course, the dozens of Essence Spirit Stones in his storage bag had already been exhausted in the past 30 years. Su Zimo turned to look at the dilapidated palace in the distance before turning to head outside. After passing through a barrier that resembled water, he returned to the abyss once more. Su Zimo looked around and was prepared to use his extreme speed and innate divine power to rush to Snow Wind Ridge right away. Suddenly, he frowned and felt that something was amiss. In the abyss, the corpses of various earth immortals and heaven immortals were strewn everywhere. However, those corpses seemed to have been moved. Although Su Zimo was cultivating in seclusion in the mysterious space, he could sense the activity outside. However, that person managed to hide from his senses. This was an expert that far surpassed him. In fact, up till now, Su Zimo's spirit perception had not sensed anything unusual. However, he knew in his heart that there was a high chance this person was nearby. "Come on out," Su Zimo said slowly with a grim expression. Hee hee. A seductive chuckle sounded from behind him, causing one's heart to skip a beat. Su Zimo looked back. Not far away, a charming woman blinked her watery eyes and looked at him with a smile. It was the heaven immortal expert, Mei Ji. "Impressive. How did you discover me, young man?" Mei Ji asked curiously. "You haven't left yet?" Su Zimo frowned and asked in an unfriendly tone. To think that Mei Ji would guard this place for an entire 30 years without leaving. Mei Ji was not annoyed and chuckled. "After the battle ended, I was indignant and returned. In the end, I realized that a corpse was missing." At that point, she glared at Su Zimo with shimmering eyes that seemed to emit a strange demonic power. She said gently, "That corpse was none other than you." Chapter 1898, Vermilion Bird's Awakening. Chapter 1898, Vermilion Bird's Awakening. Mei Ji's voice was soft and charming, as though it could awaken the evil desires in the depths of one's heart. Although Su Zimo's Dao heart was resolute and unshakable, even he felt that he could not suppress it anymore at that moment. After all, the difference in their cultivation realms was too great. A look of surprise flashed through Mei Ji's eyes. She had not expected that this puny black immortal would be able to defend against her bewitching voice and not fall into it immediately. Without panicking, Mei Ji channeled her essence spirit and her eyes shone brightly. This was a visual technique from the immortal art she cultivated. Not many heaven immortals of the same level could defend against it, let alone a black immortal. Su Zimo's gaze met with Meiji's. Instantly, he felt a boom in his mind followed by waves of giddiness as his consciousness blurred. His body turned unbearably hot and weak. Not good. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, Su Zimo's eyes began to change as well. His left eye turned pitch black without any whites and released a cold aura. His right eye turned white as jade and shone with a blinding light, as though a blazing sun was about to burst forth. The illumination and nether glow visual techniques were released. Under normal circumstances, Su Zimo's consciousness had already turned blurry and he had lost control of his body. There was no way he could release his visual techniques. However, his eyes contained two divine stones, illumination and nether glow. The two divine stones were agitated by the outside world and counterattacked on their own, releasing two visual techniques that charged towards Meiji. Initially, Meiji thought that she had Su Zimo completely under her control. To think that Su Zimo would condense two visual techniques to counterattack, she was caught off guard. Instantly, the visual techniques descended and struck Meiji. The two completely different powers of yin and yang collided within Meiji's body and released an extremely terrifying destructive power. Ah! Meiji shrieked tragically and her body swayed, almost falling from midair. However, before long, she channeled her essence chi and purged the power from her body. Su Zimo's cultivation realm was limited and he could not unleash the true power of illumination and nether glow. The counterattack of the visual techniques did not cause much damage to Meiji. At the heaven immortal realm, one could be reborn with a drop of blood. For Meiji, that small injury healed in a few breaths. However, Meiji's expression darkened and she was secretly alarmed. She knew very well that if their cultivation realms were the same, there was a high chance that she would have been destroyed by the yin and yang powers. Good, very good. Meiji nodded and smiled once more. You're even more interesting than I imagined. Let's see what other secrets you have. Before her sentence was finished, Meiji's figure swayed and she arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. She reached out with her fair palm and grabbed Su Zimo's glabella. Not only did she want to snatch Su Zimo's treasures, she also wanted to use her soul-searching art to search through his memories and uncover all his secrets. Screech. Suddenly, a clear and loud cry sounded from Su Zimo's glabella. The voice was extremely similar to a phoenix's cry but seemed different at the same time. The might and will contained in that voice had far surpassed divine phoenixes. Even the roar of the taboo dragon phoenix could not compare to it. When she heard that cry, Meiji shuddered and frowned in pain. Immediately after, a scarlet flame burst forth from Su Zimo's glabella and charged towards Meiji. Meiji was a genius among heaven immortals and broke free from the cry before long. She regained her senses and retreated. At the same time, she waved her sleeves and essence chi gathered wildly, forming a gigantic shield in front of her. Bang! A dull thud sounded when the flame struck the shield. Meiji retreated once more. Suddenly, her gaze landed on the shield in front of her and her expression changed. At that moment, the shield condensed from heaven and earth essence chi was burning wildly and turned into nothingness in the blink of an eye. In front of Meiji, a gigantic scarlet flame burned. The flames surged into the skies and burned half the firmaments red. The figure of an immortal bird gradually appeared within the flames. Although the immortal bird resembled a phoenix, it did not have the massive body of a phoenix. The immortal bird was more like an immortal peafowl. It was scarlet all over and its wings were less than 10 feet long when extended. However, its relatively skinny body was filled with a shuddering aura. The immortal peafowl glared at Meiji coldly with a cold gaze that contained endless might. It was as though he was looking at an ant. This was the disregard of an absolute superior. Under the gaze of the immortal peafowl, Meiji averted her gaze instinctively and even had the urge to kowtow. That feeling shocked her. Could that be the sacred beast, the vermilion bird? Meiji thought of a possibility and her pupils constricted as she gasped. 30 years ago, a sacred beast, the azure dragon, disappeared in a flash. Now that a vermilion bird had descended today, this was definitely not a coincidence. Meiji looked at Su Zimo deeply. Be it the azure dragon or the vermilion bird, both were related to this lad. Meiji was right. That vermilion bird was the pattern etched on the second wall of the bronze square tripod in Su Zimo's consciousness. The azure dragon on the first tripod wall had expended too much energy after 2 consecutive battles and fell asleep once more. However, after devouring many spirit treasure shards and the god fiend's soul summoning banner, the vermilion bird on the second tripod wall had already awakened. Sensing that Su Zimo was in danger, the vermilion bird opened its eyes and charged out of the bronze square tripod. Initially, Meiji wanted to retreat. However, on second thought, Su Zimo had way too many treasures on him. This black immortal seemed to have obtained almost all the benefits of this abyss. Furthermore, this person had too many secrets. Where had he been hiding for the past 30 years? What was up with the azure dragon and vermilion bird? How did this lad manage to cultivate those visual techniques with 2 different powers, one yin and one yang? If she could suppress this lad, the benefits would be unimaginable. Meiji calmed down quickly and looked at the vermilion bird in midair not far away. She then looked at Su Zimo and smiled charmingly. This vermilion bird and the azure dragon from 30 years ago are only in the form of a soul without any flesh. The god fiends in the soul summoning banner were also souls. It's not surprising that the soul of a sacred beast can suppress them. However, it won't be so easy to deal with me. Just as Su Zimo was about to speak, the vermilion bird in midair seemed to have understood Meiji's words and 2 flames burst forth from its eyes. The vermilion bird was enraged. Meiji's words were a provocation for it. Sleeve universe. Meiji did not dare to be careless and channeled her essence spirit, releasing a supreme divine power instantly. She waved her sleeves and they were dark and deep, as though they had formed a world that contained all living beings. The 2 flames shifted their trajectories and entered the sleeves. Meiji heaved a sigh of relief. However, the next moment, her expression changed and she waved her palm wildly. Her sleeves burned from the inside out and the flames intensified, even starting to scald her fair arm. Chapter 1899, Annihilation. Chapter 1899, Annihilation. Those were flames that spewed out of the vermilion bird's eyes. How could they be devoured so easily? Even Sleeve Universe could not do it. In the blink of an eye, Meiji's sleeves were burned to ashes. Not only that, the surface of her arm was charred black and her skin was cracked, emitting a pungent smell. What was even more frightening was that the flames did not show any signs of extinguishing and spread along her arm towards her upper body. A look of determination flashed through Meiji's eyes. She slashed in reverse and severed her arm. Fresh blood gushed out from where her arm was severed and splattered onto the scarlet flames, letting out sizzling sounds as green smoke billowed. His severed arm fell and turned into ashes. Meiji channeled her essence spirit and in the blink of an eye, her severed arm regrew. Screech. The vermilion bird let out a long cry and flapped its wings. The flames on its body burned furiously as it descended from the skies and lunged towards Meiji. Essence chi surged around Meiji as she spun her saber and slashed forward. A cold saber beam burst forth and the surrounding temperature dipped. Boom! The saber collided with the vermilion bird. The 2 energies, one hot and one cold, collided and it was hard to tell who was stronger. Su Zimo kept his distance and did not attack. Given his current strength, he would not be able to cause any waves even if he attacked. The aftershock of the battle between Meiji and the vermilion bird was enough to kill him. Su Zimo watched coldly from the sidelines and had a clearer grasp of the situation. Meiji was right. The vermilion bird did not have a body of flesh and blood and the combat strength it could release in its soul form was indeed limited. However, as time passed by, the flames on the vermilion bird intensified and condensed, even turning into scarlet lava that dripped down from its body. The vermilion bird was a sacred beast after all and fought fiercer the longer the battle continued. Under the constant entanglement of the vermilion bird, Meiji's expression turned extremely terrible and she gradually could not withstand it. The flames burning on the vermilion bird were way too terrifying. Those flames were not only extremely lethal, they could also burn heaven and earth essence chi. The heaven and earth essence chi around Meiji was almost completely burned by the flames. In the battle, Meiji released supreme divine powers repeatedly and used all her might to finally break free from the vermilion bird's entanglement and charge towards Su Zimo. Meiji vaguely realized that as long as she could kill Su Zimo, the vermilion bird's sacred soul would collapse without a fight. However, Su Zimo's reaction was extremely fast as well. He slammed into the abyss wall right away and hid in that mysterious space. This space was created by the horned dragon. Su Zimo had the dragon phoenix essence spirit and could enter and exit freely. However, Meiji could not enter. Unable to kill Su Zimo, Meiji was entangled by the vermilion bird once more. She was covered in dust and her hair was curled, looking wretched. At that moment, when Meiji opened her mouth slightly, her breath was scorching. After the long battle, the vermilion bird flames had already seeped into her body. I can't stay here anymore. Meiji was secretly alarmed. If not for her many trump cards and secret skills, she would have died a long time ago. I have to get rid of this vermilion bird and find a secluded and safe place to purge away the fire poison in my body. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble in the future. At that thought, Meiji channeled her essence spirit and released an essence spirit secret skill to fight the vermilion bird head-on. Meiji shuddered and her gaze dimmed. The vermilion bird shuddered slightly as well and paused in midair. This attack had a huge impact on the vermilion bird. Its life force was clearly much weaker and its glow was much dimmer. This battle had taken a huge toll on the vermilion bird. Of course, Meiji did not feel good either and spat out a mouthful of blood. Meiji seized the opportunity and fled from the battlefield in a flash, escaping out of the dragon abyss star. The vermilion bird glared at Meiji coldly before turning around, prepared to return to the bronze square tripod. Su Zimo's heart sank. This battle had taken a huge toll on the vermilion bird. For the vermilion bird, repelling Meiji was enough. However, for Su Zimo, there was a high chance that Meiji's escape would bring about a calamity for him. Meiji was backed by a massive immortal sect. The day she made a comeback would be the day he died. Furthermore, Meiji already knew some of his secrets. If she were to escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Su Zimo was only a grade 7 black immortal. Even if Meiji was severely injured by the vermilion bird, he could not do anything to her. Don't come back, chase after her. Su Zimo could only look at the vermilion bird that was turning around and attempt to channel his spirit consciousness, hoping that it could sense his intentions. Be it the azure dragon or the vermilion bird, they appeared on their own each time and had never listened to Su Zimo's orders. Su Zimo did not know if his current actions were useful. Suddenly, the vermilion bird paused for a moment. Su Zimo was invigorated and said hurriedly, "Kill her at all costs." With a cold expression, the vermilion bird turned around and chased after the fleeing Meiji. Swoosh! A scarlet light tore through the void. No matter how fast Meiji was, she could not match the vermilion bird. Sensing the scorching heat wave behind her, she was alarmed and could not help but turn back. The vermilion bird was murderous and the killing intent in its eyes was even more condensed than before. Screech! The cry of the vermilion bird sounded once more, piercing through metal and cracking rocks. Meiji had a pained expression as blood flowed out from her ears. "I'll fight you to the death." Meiji grit her teeth and shouted. She summoned many dermic treasures from her storage bag that turned into countless divine lights and shot towards the vermilion bird. Phew! The vermilion bird curled its body and charged towards the dermic treasures like a gigantic fireball. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The dermic treasures were sent flying everywhere, and every single one of them burned with flames as they fell from midair. It was clear that they were crippled. The light on the vermilion bird dimmed once more. Meiji and the vermilion bird fought once more. Each time the two of them collided, the vermilion bird's aura would weaken. As for Meiji, the wounds on her body increased and the fire poison in her body intensified. In the end, Meiji's organs began to burn with flames. Ah! Meiji cried out in pain. Flames spewed from her opened mouth. The flames were way too terrifying and there was no way to escape. Even with blood rebirth, it was not enough. Under the burning of that flame, all her bloodline would be refined completely. Finally, Meiji could not hold on any longer and shrieked once more, "Heavenly Fiend Dissolution." Su Zimo knew best how terrifying Heavenly Fiend Dissolution was. Back in Tianhuang mainland, Monk Daming used this supreme divine power to drag a clone of Dao Lord Blood Fiend down with him. Bang! Meiji's body exploded into a blood mist and released an extremely terrifying power that engulfed the vermilion bird instantly. The vermilion bird's glow was dim to begin with and its aura was weak. The power of Heavenly Fiend Dissolution descended and the vermilion bird shattered on the spot, turning into a scarlet beam of light that entered Su Zimo's glabella and returned to the bronze square tripod. On the second tripod wall, the vermilion bird pattern recovered. However, there were no signs of life and the vermilion bird's eyes were tightly shut. The azure dragon and vermilion bird had both gone silent. Although Su Zimo had lost this powerful trump card for the time being, at the very least, he had killed Meiji and saved himself a lot of trouble. Putting away Meiji's storage bag, Su Zimo took a deep breath and sped towards Snow Wind Ridge without hesitation. Chapter 1900, Breaking of the Immortal Formation. Chapter 1900, Breaking of the Immortal Formation. Outside Snow Wind Ridge. The 100,000-strong evil wolf army and goshawk gang had been attacking the Immortal Formation day and night for 7 days. Initially, the Immortal Formation was indestructible. However, under the continuous toll of the 100,000 troops, the energy of the essence spirit stones in the formation eyes decreased rapidly as well. The light emitted by the Immortal Formation was clearly much dimmer than before. Each time the army charged, the Immortal Formation would tremble. After 7 days of recuperation, the wound on Yuhao's abdomen was already bandaged and stopped bleeding. Although he was still unable to fight, he had at least regained his mobility. Yu Hao and Xia Qingying looked at the army outside Snow Wind Ridge with grim expressions. Both of them knew very well that once the essence spirit stones in the formation eyes were depleted and the Immortal Formation was destroyed, Snow Wind Ridge would be doomed. There were no extra essence spirit stones in Snow Wind Ridge. Even if there was, the two of them did not know how to replace them. This Immortal Formation could not last long. Xia Qingying gripped Yu Hao's hand tightly. The two of them exchanged glances, understanding one another telepathically without having to say anything. Even if they had to die, they wanted to die together. Big brother, almost all the major factions are here. However, none of them dared to stand out and fight against the evil wolf army and the goshawk gang. Shen Fei sighed. For the past 7 days, the major factions of the Dragon Abyss Star such as the Heavenly Scorpion Gang and Thunder Shock Hall arrived at Snow Wind Ridge one after another. Furthermore, those that arrived were the leaders of the major factions. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang, the Hall Master of Thunder Shock Hall, the Sect Master of Heaven Bane Sect, the Mountain Lord of Black Een Mountain, the Palace Lord of Heavenly Fire Palace and the Sect Master of Black Light Sect were all here personally. However, be it the gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang, the Hall Master of Thunder Shock Hall or the leaders of other factions, none of them brought many people. The number varied between hundreds and thousands. That was a clear indication of their stance. The Sect Masters and Hall Masters had no intention of helping Snow Wind Ridge at all. They were only here to watch the show. Some people might even harbor thoughts of taking advantage of the situation and kicking someone when they were down. Yu Hao shook his head gently. It's not that they don't dare, but they don't want to. Given the strength and foundation of the major factions, if they work together, there's no way the evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang can defend against them. However, they each have their own motives and are worried that their strength will be weakened if they fight the two great bandits. Therefore, neither of them is willing to stand out. Crack. 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 Suddenly, a jarring sound came from the barrier around Snow Wind Ridge. Cracks appeared on it and spread rapidly. The immortal formation was about to shatter. Prepare to fight to the death. Yu Hao grit his teeth and ordered. Boom. 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 Right then, dust billowed from the ground far away and a violent quake sounded. An army was speeding over. Wind Flame, Sangya, and the leaders of the major factions turned to look. Everyone from Snow Wind Ridge tried their best to look through the crowd as well. It's Twin Dragon Sect. The crowd exclaimed. By the looks of it, there's about 40,000 troops. Shenfei was invigorated and could not help but ask, could Twin Dragon Sect be here to help us? Let's wait and see. Gu Wenjun took a deep breath and tried her best to remain calm. Ko Yong, Su Jian, why did the two of you bring so many people here? The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang raised his brows slightly and asked loudly. Since it's rare for the two great bandits to gather, we naturally have to kill to our heart's content. At the front of Twin Dragon Sect, a burly man shouted murderously. He was one of the twin dragons, Ko Yong. The Mountain Lord of Blackeen Mountain, Ding Yi, said in a strange manner, the two of you, I advise you not to get involved in this mess lest you get implicated. A figure caught up from behind Ko Yong. Su Jian asked with an indifferent expression, since when was Blackeen Mountain on the side of the bandits? Ding Yi harumphed coldly with a dark expression. Suddenly, Wind Flame declared loudly, today is a feud between the evil Wolf Army, Goshawk Gang and Snow Wind Ridge. Fellow Daoist brothers, please give me some face and I'll definitely repay you handsomely in the future. Ha 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 ha. Ko Yong burst into laughter and slapped in reverse. The saber on his back jumped out and let out a buzzing sound as saber chi spread. How dare a bandit leader refer to me as a brother? Ko Yong hollered and leaped up with his saber. Descending from the skies, he slashed towards the evil wolf army with a blinding saber beam. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. Nobody expected one of the twin dragons, Ko Yong, to be so domineering that he chose to take the two great bandits head-on. Kill. Su Jian waved his arm and pointed forward as well. The 40,000-strong Twin Dragon Sect army swarmed forward and fought against the 100,000-strong army of the two great bandits. The moment the two armies collided, an endless blood mist burst forth. Boom! Boom! At the same time, the immortal formation at the outer perimeter of Snow Wind Ridge could not withstand it and shattered completely. Everyone from Snow Wind Ridge was exposed to the gazes of the two great bandits. I've long heard of the methods of the twin dragons. It's a rare encounter today and I can take the opportunity to learn from you. Right then, Ding Yi of Blackeen Mountain suddenly stood out and joined forces with his right protector to charge towards Ko Yong and Su Jian. To think that the Blackeen Mountain would attack as well. The Hall Master of Thunder Shock Hall frowned slightly. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang sneered, Blackeen Mountain is located extremely close to Twin Dragon Sect. If they can kill the twin dragons here, Blackeen Mountain can make use of the power of the two great bandits to devour Twin Dragon Sect and strengthen themselves. By the looks of it, it's not just Snow Wind Ridge today. Twin Dragon Sect might be annihilated as well. The Sect Master of Black Light Sect said. With Ding Yi and the right protector of Blackeen Mountain holding back the twin dragons, Wind Flame, the second boss of the evil wolf army, Sangya, and the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang seized the opportunity to escape and charged towards Snow Wind Ridge. Those were 4 grade 8 black immortals. As for Snow Wind Ridge, apart from Yu Hao and the Silver Giant who were at the level 7 Black Essence realm, there was not even another grade 7 black immortal. Yu Hao and the silver giant were severely injured and could barely participate in the battle. Four grade 8 black immortals charged into the battlefield, and in the blink of an eye, the army of Snow Wind Ridge was in a mess with heavy casualties. Nobody could stop the attacks of Wind Flame and the other three. Sangya led an army of hundreds of goshawks and attacked continuously from the skies, causing immense damage to Snow Wind Ridge and Twin Dragon sect. Although the Twin Dragons were also grade 8 black immortals, they could only leap less than 90 feet into the air. However, the goshawks could fly dozens of feet in the air. It was extremely difficult to capture and tame a goshawk. Although the goshawk army did not have many people, only a few hundred, they were already invincible with that fact. Nobody in the Black Essence realm could hurt them. Ha ha ha. Wind Flame looked at Yu Hao and the others and laughed brazenly. You survivors should have died a long time ago. Even immortals won't be able to save you today, let alone Twin Dragon sect. Snow Wind Ridge will be removed today. Whoosh. Before his sentence was finished, an ear-piercing sound tore through the air from the distant horizon. Good, good, good. Someone spoke. The first word was still on the horizon. By the time the third word sounded, that voice had already appeared on the battlefield. That speed was shocking. With me around today, who can remove Snow Wind Ridge? A green figure stood in midair with a pair of gigantic golden wings flapping behind him. His black hair danced and his gaze was like lightning. His aura was torrential as he shouted with a divine might that rumbled like thunder. Chapter 1901, Domineering Suppression. Chapter 1901, Domineering Suppression. The arrival of the figure attracted countless gazes. It's Su Zimo. Brother Su. Ha ha ha, Boss Su isn't dead. Instantly, the entire Snow Wind Ridge was in an uproar. Yu Hao and the others were invigorated. That's Su Zimo. I heard that this lad has the ability to kill above his level. Now that he's back, there's going to be many variables in today's battle. I don't think so. No matter how strong that lad is, can he defeat Wind Flame and the other three grade 8 black immortals? It was the first time that the leaders of the major factions had seen Su Zimo, and they discussed. Su Zimo, you came at the right time. Ding Yi of Black Een Mountain said murderously with a cold gaze, today, I'll make you pay with your life for my son. Su Zimo, you destroyed 2 bosses of the evil wolf army and massacred thousands of my brothers. I'll make you pay with blood today. Wind Flame shouted as well. Blood for blood. The cultivators of the evil wolf army were already bloodthirsty and roared with a massive might. Roar. Suddenly, Su Zimo opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar towards the crowd below. This was the roar of the Azure Dragon that was even more terrifying than the Dragon Phoenix. It contained a supreme will and a terrifying killing power of the sound domain. The cultivators of the evil wolf army and goshawk gang nearby Su Zimo shuddered. The bodies of some grade 4 and 5 black immortals were shattered by the roar and turned into blood mists. Blood scars appeared on the faces of some grade 6 black immortals as they fell to the ground with dull gazes and dim expressions. They were already dead. Even many grade 7 black immortals could not defend against it and bled from all 7 orifices. They had tragic expressions and lost their combat strength completely. Against that roar, close to 10,000 cultivators died on the spot. Even dozens of the goshawk army in midair were killed on the spot. The heightened morale of the 100,000-strong army was instantly suppressed by Su Zimo's roar and dissipated. In fact, there was a momentary silence on the battlefield. The crowd was astonished. What sound domain's secret skill is that? To think that it would possess such terrifying might. The Hall Master of Thunder Shock Hall exclaimed in shock. Although Thunder Shock Hall also comprehended a sound domain's secret skill, it was far inferior compared to the Azure Dragon roar. Against that roar, his heart trembled slightly and he even had the urge to kowtow. That doesn't make sense. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang frowned and murmured, "It said that Su Zimo is only a grade 6 black immortal. How can a sound domain secret skill be so lethal? He doesn't seem to be a grade 6 black immortal." Right then, the sect master of Black Light Sect seemed to have sensed something and his voice trembled. On the battlefield. Although many black immortals further away from Su Zimo managed to escape, they had pained expressions as well. Even Wind Flame and the other grade 8 black immortals shuddered and felt a sharp pain in their minds, feeling dizzy. How scary. Wind Flame and the others were secretly alarmed. If they were to fight head-on and Su Zimo suddenly roared, they would definitely be killed on the spot if they were distracted. "You want to kill me with just a bunch of nobodies?" Su Zimo glared at Wind Flame with a burning gaze and said coldly, "Die." Before his sentence was finished, the golden wings behind Su Zimo flapped and his speed increased exponentially, turning into a golden streak of light that charged towards Wind Flame. "Stop him." Wind Flame was shocked by Su Zimo's aura and shouted hurriedly. Body immobilization technique. Wind summoning. Soul devouring palm. The 4 grade 8 black immortals, Wind Flame, the second boss of the evil wolf army, Sangya, and the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang attacked together and lesser divine powers burst forth one after another. At the same time, a few cold beams tore through the air. The 4 grade 8 black immortals released their dermic treasures in unison without holding back at all. Humph. In Su Zimo's consciousness, the creation lotus platform shone with rays of light. The power of the body immobilization technique was dispelled by him the moment it descended and did not affect him at all. The stronger the essence spirit of the cultivator, the greater the impact of the body immobilization technique on the opponent. However, Su Zimo's essence spirit cultivation was already at grade 9 black immortal. The body immobilization technique of a grade 8 black immortal was completely useless against him. As for Su Zimo, he released the extreme speed divine power of the golden rock. It was so fast that it even passed through the obstruction of the remaining lesser divine powers and dermic treasures. Boom! Many lesser divine powers and dermic treasures missed and collided with a loud bang. The second boss of the evil wolf army who was blocking at the front was shocked. He watched helplessly as a golden light sped over and wanted to dodge. However, the golden light was even faster than his thoughts. Poof! The moment he wanted to escape, the golden light pierced him. Blood gushed out. Ah! The second boss of the evil wolf army let out a tragic cry. The next moment, the cry stopped. The golden light was Su Zimo's body and possessed a terrifying power that penetrated the second boss of the evil wolf army. That power was enough to destroy him. Bang! The body of the second boss of the evil wolf army exploded on the spot and his essence spirit was destroyed. Now that he was dead, the first boss, Wind Flame, was next. Sensing that the situation was bad, Wind Flame had long escaped from the spot and fled towards the army behind him. He knew the lesser divine power, invisibility. If he could infiltrate the army and release his invisibility, he would definitely be able to avoid Su Zimo's senses and escape. As though he sensed Wind Flame's intentions, Su Zimo's figure flashed and he vanished from the spot. By the time he reappeared, he was already behind Wind Flame. True Dragon 9 flashes. That's secret skill again. Some people who had seen Su Zimo attack in Dragon Abyss City exclaimed. Back in the battle beneath Dragon Abyss City, Su Zimo's powerful methods had already spread through the Dragon Abyss Star. However, the leaders of the major factions present refused to believe it. How could a black immortal release a technique that was similar to teleportation? It was only when they witnessed it personally that the leaders of the major factions realized how terrifying that movement technique was. Wind Flame was alarmed when he sensed the killing intent behind him. He had also heard that Su Zimo possessed a movement technique similar to teleportation. Sensing that something was amiss, he made a prompt decision and channeled his essence spirit, releasing a lesser divine power. He tapped gently towards a grade 6 black immortal not far away and shouted. Nether swap. The power of divine power spread. Suddenly, Wind Flame vanished from the spot and was replaced by the grade 6 black immortal not far away. Right in front of everyone, the two of them exchanged positions. That lesser divine power did not have any killing power. However, at that critical moment, Wind Flame managed to escape death by releasing Nether Swap. It was perfect and he barely avoided the calamity. There was naturally a reason why Wind Flame could become the first boss of the evil wolf army and dominate for so many years. His alertness and reaction had already surpassed many black immortals of the same cultivation realm. Even the cultivators watching were stunned when they saw that. Unfortunately, this was Su Zimo he was up against. Just as Wind Flame made use of Nether Swap to leave his original spot, Su Zimo's expression turned cold and his figure flashed as well. He had already cultivated to level 2 of the true Dragon 9 flashes and could flash twice in succession. Chapter 1902, Might of the Fire. Chapter 1902, Might of the Fire. Wind Flame made use of Nether Swap to escape the calamity. Just as he was about to release his invisibility and hide in the army, he felt his heart skip a beat. An even stronger sense of danger enveloped him. You can't escape. Su Zimo's voice sounded right behind him. Wind Flame's eyes widened in fear and his scalp felt like it was about to explode. He felt a chill run down his spine and his limbs went cold. Although he still had immense strength, he could not release it at all. How was that possible? He had just released Nether Swap. How could Su Zimo arrive behind him in an instant? Bang! Wind Flame no longer had the chance to figure out the reason as a sharp pain surged through his mind. In fact, he could even hear the sound of his skull cracking. A tremendous power surged into his consciousness and shattered his essence spirit. The next moment, Wind Flame lost consciousness. There was a momentary pause on the battlefield. Although Wind Flame did not understand what happened, the bystanders were clear about it. Under countless gazes, Su Zimo's figure flashed twice in succession and smashed the top of Wind Flame's head, killing him. The first boss of the evil wolf army, a peak grade 8 black immortal, had dominated the Dragon Abyss Star for many years and experienced countless bloodshed. In the end, he managed to escape death and survive till now. However, he could not escape against the terrifying movement technique of the true Dragon 9 flashes. Even the paragons and monster incarnates among the natives of the upper world might not be able to avoid Su Zimo's pursuit, let alone Wind Flame. In just a few breaths, the two bosses of the evil wolf army were dead. The tens of thousands of evil wolf army cultivators were stunned on the spot and could not react in time. Their two bosses who were grade 8 black immortals were dead just like that? Haha. Ko Yong laughed as he fought against Ding Yi. Good kills. Sangya had a grim expression and suddenly shouted, "Everyone, watch out. This person isn't at the level 6 black essence realm. He's a grade 7 black immortal." What? How is that possible? He was only a grade 6 black immortal 30 years ago. What sort of innate physique does that person possess? What cultivation technique did he cultivate such that his cultivation speed is so terrifying? The cultivators were moved. As for Duan Tianliang, Xia Qingying and the others who were the first to come into contact with Su Zimo in Snow Wind Ridge, they were even more shocked. When Su Zimo first descended on the Dragon Abyss Star, he was only a grade 4 black immortal. Now, it had only been slightly more than 100 years and Su Zimo was already a grade 7 black immortal. This cultivation speed was something that even some top-tier experts and successors of powerful sects with countless cultivation resources and cultivation techniques could not achieve. Could this lad be the reincarnation of an immortal? In the upper world, there were some legends that said that once one's cultivation reached a certain realm, as long as they could ensure that a wisp of their soul did not dissipate and entered reincarnation, they could be reborn. When immortals were reborn and cultivated to a certain realm, they could recover their memories of their previous lives. Some immortals would be reborn and even have seniors, Dao companions or kin of their previous lives to welcome them back to the immortal sections. Even the reincarnation of an immortal can't cultivate so quickly, right? The leaders of the Scorpion Gang, Thunder Shock Hall and the others were shocked. Goshawk Gang, heed my orders. Sanya said in a deep voice, continue rising into the air and distance yourself from that lad before attacking. That was his greatest reliance. Hundreds of cultivators rode on goshawks and circled in the skies, looking down from above. They were almost invincible and no one could threaten them. The hundreds of Goshawk Gang cultivators did not dare to be careless and rose into the air hurriedly. Su Zimo looked up and sneered, Sanya, do you think that the pair of golden wings behind me are just for show? The moment he said that, Su Zimo flapped his golden wings and took off. Phew! A golden light surged into the skies and in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was dozens of feet above the ground, even higher than the hundreds of goshawks. Those were the wings of the Golden Rock. Among birds, the Golden Rock was the absolute king. Retreat! Retreat! Sanya's expression changed starkly as he shouted. Su Zimo descended from the skies and charged into the Goshawk Gang. He was almost unstoppable. The massacre had already begun. Run! Many of the Goshawk Gang cultivators howled and fled in all directions. However, no matter how fast the goshawk was, it could not match the speed of the Golden Rock. Before long, Su Zimo would catch up and kill them on the spot. Southern Mingli Fire. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and conjured hand seals. Suddenly, two pure white flames appeared in his palm. They were demonic and terrifying, emitting frightening air currents. This time round, he did not fuse the Southern Mingli Fire with the three Dao fires. After all, the Southern Mingli Fire was a secret skill recorded on the bronze square tripod and he wanted to test its power. Burn! Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and two balls of flames floated out, scattering in midair and forming a gigantic firewall that blocked the hundreds of Goshawk Gang cultivators. Many of the Goshawk Gang cultivators released their divine powers, channeled secret skills, summoned dermic treasures, tore talismans and released many trump cards, wanting to break through the obstruction of the fire wall. Poof! 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 Unfortunately, be it divine powers or dermic treasures, they were incinerated upon entering the Southern Mingli Fire. Some of the goshawks that collided with it were burned to ashes before long. Even a single spark would ignite a raging fire in the body of the Goshawk Gang cultivators and eventually engulf them. It was like a flame cage that trapped hundreds of the Goshawk Gang cultivators within and no one could escape. Even the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang, a grade 8 black immortal, could not withstand the heat of the Southern Mingli Fire and fell from midair, turning into ashes before he even landed on the ground. I've long heard that Su Zimo specializes in fire Dao techniques. To think that that flame would be so terrifying. The power of that flame shouldn't be at its limits yet. Under Dragon Abyss City, Su Zimo once released a secret skill of fire that fused flames of different colors and increased its might by several times. That single flame is already so powerful. If it's fused with a few more flames. The leaders of many factions no longer dared to think about it. Those flames could definitely kill them with ease. In midair. Under the illumination of the flames, Sanya's face was pale and his eyes were filled with shock, fear and regret. Fellow Daoist Su, I admit defeat. Sanya took a deep breath and grit his teeth. Exalted Immortal, I wonder if you can give me a chance. I'm willing to serve you and follow you. Not only did Sanya change the way he addressed Su Zimo, he even knelt down. Exalted Immortal, the tens of thousands of troops under my lead will also obey your orders. Sanya's heart was clear as a mirror and he had long understood. The two bosses of the evil wolf army and the vice gang leader of the Goshawk Gang were dead. He was the only one left and it was difficult for him to survive alone. If he could follow Su Zimo, not only would he be able to survive, he might even obtain some benefits. Although it was humiliating, it was nothing compared to his life. You're not worthy. Just as Sanya was plotting his plan, Su Zimo's voice sounded. Although it was only 3 words, it caused his heart to sink instantly. You. Sangya raised his head and was about to speak. Su Zimo had already arrived beside him and closed his fingers. The surrounding southern Mingli fire gathered and returned to his palm instantly. Su Zimo threw it casually. The ball of southern Mingli fire landed on Sangya's head. Ah! With a tragic cry, the flames engulfed Sangya. Chapter 1903, Alliance. Chapter 1903, Alliance. The crowd was shocked. It was only less than half an hour since Su Zimo appeared. However, the strongest 4 black immortals of the evil wolf army and goshawk gang were already dead. The leaders of the major factions were only grade 8 black immortals and their combat strength was similar to Wind Flame and the other 3 who died. This meant that if Su Zimo were to attack them, they would not be able to last long either. The leaders of the major factions were wary and secretly alarmed. Although the tens of thousands of troops of the evil wolf army and goshawk gang were violent and bloodthirsty, the army began to turn chaotic when they saw Wind Flame and the other 3 die. Some were fighting, some were fleeing, some were at a loss, and the tens of thousands of troops were in a state of disunity. If those bandits were to escape, they would not be a threat to Su Zimo. However, it could become a latent danger for Snow Wind Ridge. With a cold expression, Su Zimo conjured a sword art with both hands and released his massive spirit consciousness, slashing towards the crowd beneath him. TSK. 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 The sword art in his right hand released 100,000 sword chi that was white and blinding. Killing intent surged into the firmaments and shifted stars. Every single sword chi was incomparably sharp and could penetrate the flesh of many bandits in the crowd. What was even more frightening was that on the battlefield below, cultivators of the goshawk gang, evil wolf army, Snow Wind Ridge and Twin Dragon sect were fighting. As for the 100,000 sword chi, every single one of them could slash towards the bandits of the evil wolf army and goshawk gang with extreme precision without any accidental injuries. Initially, Su Jian was worried that the cultivators of Twin Dragon sect would be implicated by such a terrifying sword art. To think that the sword chi would bypass their cultivators and stab towards the bandits as though they were sentient. What powerful control! Su Jian was secretly speechless. To be able to control 100,000 sword chi accurately, Su Zimo's essence spirit cultivation was probably not only at the level 7 black essence realm. The battlefield was filled with whales and rivers of blood. The heaven-slaying sword art was extremely lethal. Finally, the tens of thousands of bandits could not hold on any longer and broke down, fleeing in all directions. However, not many people could leave this place alive against the pursuit of Snow Wind Ridge, Twin Dragon sect and the encirclement of the heaven-slaying sword chi. A blood mist spread and broken limbs flew everywhere. The cultivators of the major factions such as the Heavenly Scorpion Gang were dumbfounded with shocked expressions. Ever since they ascended to the upper world and descended on the Dragon Abyss Star for so many years, they had never seen such a bloody battle personally. The lives of tens of thousands of troops were like grass against the fingertips of the green-robed cultivator. Everywhere he pointed his sword fingers was met with destruction. Roar! Roar! Su Zimo's left hand slashed out a dragon snake. A divine dragon descended from the skies and the soaring serpent tore through the ground, charging towards Ding Yi and the right protector of Black Yin Mountain. You! Ding Ye's expression changed starkly. Actually, he had already thought of retreating when Wind Cloud and Sangya died one after another. However, he and the right protector were entangled by Ko Yong and Su Jian and could not break free for the time being. To think that Su Zimo's counterattack would be so fast, ferocious and domineering that he did not even have the chance to react. The right protector was already trembling in fear to begin with. Even without the arrival of the dragon snake of the earth-slaying sword art, he would not be able to last long against Su Jian. Now that the dragon snake had arrived, the right protector of Black Yin Mountain shrieked tragically and was minced by the dragon snake instantly without a corpse left. Su Zimo, you! Ding Yi opened his mouth, wanting to say something. In a flash, Su Zimo had already arrived before him, glaring at him coldly with a lightning gaze. Ding Ye's heart turned cold when he was glared at by those two gazes. Su Zimo merely stood opposite him motionlessly and looked at him calmly, revealing an unstoppable might and determination. Ding Yi felt as though he was hallucinating and there were mountains of corpses alongside seas of blood behind Su Zimo. His spirit collapsed instantly. Ko Yong seized the opportunity and slashed down. A gigantic head flew into the air and blood gushed out. Ding Ye's head spun a few times in midair before it was split into pieces by Ko Yong once more and his essence spirit was destroyed. None of the 500 cultivators that Ding Yi brought dared to stand out when they saw that. "Brother Su, you sure are capable." Ko Yong could not help but exclaim. Su Jian cupped his fists and smiled at Su Zimo as well. "I heard Wanner mention you often. Initially, I didn't believe it. Now that I've seen it for myself, I know that she's not lying." The Wanner that Su Jian was referring to was Su Wan. Su Zimo nodded to the twin dragons and his expression softened. "Thank you." Thereafter, he nodded slightly to Su Wan. Among the 7 major factions, only Twin Dragon Sect was willing to stand out and help Snow Wind Ridge. Su Wan was definitely involved. At this point of the battle, there was no doubt. The 2 great bandits were completely defeated and were hunted down by cultivators of Twin Dragon Sect and Snow Wind Ridge. There were few who could escape alive. Arriving beside Yu Hao and the Silver Giant, Su Zimo took out some healing immortal medicine from his storage bag and fed it to the 2 of them. There was no longer a need for him to attack in this battle. "Boss Su, I knew you weren't dead, hee." Duan Tianliang's cultivation realm was not high and he did not join the battle. At that moment, he ran over with a pandering smile. "Woof, woof." Big Yellow barked at the side as well. "Brother Su, that change 30 years ago caused too much of a stir." Yu Hao said, "It said that many Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals died in that abyss. There was no news of you after you left and we all thought that you were already." Su Zimo said, "Indeed, the trip to the abyss was extremely dangerous. I only managed to survive by chance. Thankfully, I returned in time." Due to the existence of the Immortal Formation, most of Snow Wind Ridge was not destroyed. The pursuit lasted till nightfall before many cultivators returned. The main hall of Snow Wind Ridge was brightly lit. The leaders of the major factions were in no hurry to leave. Instead, they waited for the battle to end and came to greet. They knew in their hearts that as long as Su Zimo was around, no one on the Dragon Abyss Star would be able to challenge Snow Wind Ridge in the future. However, Su Zimo was only a grade 7 black immortal with unlimited potential. Even if they could not form an alliance with such an expert, they could not afford to offend him. The leaders of those factions even gathered some gifts at the last minute such as essence condensation pills to give to Snow Wind Ridge as a form of goodwill. Yu Hao was initially hesitant. However, Su Zimo did not reject them and accepted everything. Thereafter, he sent away the leaders of the factions and did not even ask them to attend the evening banquet. These leaders were all pragmatic people and there was no need to form deep relationships with them. Su Zimo only valued Twin Dragon Sect. At the banquet, under Su Zimo's suggestion, Twin Dragon Sect formed an alliance with Snow Wind Ridge. Naturally, Su Zimo had his reasons for doing so. Twin Dragon Sect wished for nothing more. Be it the Twin Dragons or Yu Hao, they were all straightforward people who regretted not meeting sooner and drank merrily without any fatigue. Su Zimo retreated quietly and stood at the entrance of the hall, looking into the distance in deep thought. Xia Qingying was meticulous and vaguely sensed something as she followed. Chapter 1904, Farewell. Chapter 1904, Farewell. Fellow Taoist Su, you. Xia Qingying came behind Su Zimo and hesitated. Su Zimo said softly, "I'm leaving." Xia Qingying was silent. She had already guessed it. At the banquet earlier on, Su Zimo took the initiative to form an alliance between Snow Wind Ridge and Twin Dragon Sect. In reality, he wanted Snow Wind Ridge to have another ally and leave a way out for them. However, now that Su Zimo said it personally, she still felt a surge of complicated emotions. She was a little reluctant and enlightened. Actually, more than 100 years ago, when Xia Qingying knew that Su Zimo had transcended 4 heavenly tribulations and ascended to the upper world, she realized that he would definitely leave this place and the Dragon Abyss Star. However, she had not expected this day to arrive so quickly. In just 100 years, the person before her had already cultivated to a grade 7 Black Immortal. That cultivation speed was unimaginable. What was even more frightening was that this person's current status on the Dragon Abyss Star was extremely important and his reputation was unparalleled. The leaders of the major factions had to take the initiative to befriend him. This person was like a divine dragon who had only washed up on the shallows by some freak coincidence. There would come a day where he would eventually head to an even more magnificent river. When do you expect to leave? Xia Qingying asked. Su Zimo said deeply, "There's no hurry. I'll make a move after imparting all the dermic arts of this immortal formation to you guys." All right. Xia Qingying nodded in agreement. Su Zimo thought for a moment and reminded, "Also, don't tell anyone about my departure." Xia Qingying was slightly stunned but understood quickly. As long as the cultivators outside thought that Su Zimo was still in Snow Wind Ridge, no one would dare harbor designs on it. The battle at Dragon Abyss City, the trampling of Blood Sun Valley and the annihilation of the 2 great bandits, those 3 battles were enough to shock everyone. As long as there was enough time and Yu Hao and the others grew, Snow Wind Ridge would be able to match the major factions even without Su Zimo. Right then, Duan Tianliang and Big Yellow finished tidying up the battlefield and ran over happily. "Boss Su, we've gained too much this time round." Duan Tianliang took out a storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo, saying excitedly, "The storage bags of the 100,000 bandits, including Wind Flame and the others, are inside." "Yes." Su Zimo received the storage bags and checked them rapidly. While there were indeed many things in the storage bags of the 2 great bandits, there was almost nothing that was truly useful to Su Zimo. This was the remote Dragon Abyss Star after all, and apart from the battlefield in the abyss, there were almost no treasures. However, Su Zimo collected all the essence spirit stones in the storage bags and there were more than 400 of them. He put away the essence spirit stones and handed the remaining storage bags to Xia Qingying. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out another 100 essence spirit stones and handed them to Xia Qingying. The operation of the immortal formation required the energy within essence spirit stones. He left the 100 essence spirit stones for Snow Wind Ridge as a precaution. For the next period of time, Su Zimo stayed in Snow Wind Ridge and imparted the formation patterns, control and operation of the immortal formation to Xia Qingying and Yu Hao. Su Zimo had already expended dozens of essence spirit stones to break through to grade 7 Black Immortal. The remaining 300 essence spirit stones were not enough for him to break through to grade 8 Black Immortal. On the Dragon Abyss Star, it was almost impossible to obtain essence spirit stones without an essence spirit stone mine. The only way to obtain more essence spirit stones was to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to the wider Green Cloud County. The essence chi there was also richer and he could cultivate faster. Furthermore, Mei Ji was an outstanding talent among the Heaven Immortals after all. It was inevitable that her death here might attract more experts of the same sect. The longer he lingered on the Dragon Abyss Star, the easier it would be for other changes to happen. A year later, Xia Qingying and Yu Hao had already mastered most of the immortal formation and what was left was familiarity and comprehension. Although Su Zimo had not mentioned it for the past year, Duan Tianliang, Big Yellow and the others had already vaguely sensed something. Nobody pointed it out. The day before Su Zimo left, Big Yellow reverted to his human form. The next night, he left quietly without informing anyone. More than 100 years ago, he arrived on the Dragon Abyss Star alone. Now, he was also leaving alone. He did not owe Snow Wind Ridge anything. Over the years, he had saved Snow Wind Ridge from the brink of death countless times and left many resources for them to grow. The karma between him and Snow Wind Ridge had been severed and he no longer had any ties in his heart. Right then, Su Zimo, who was in midair, seemed to have sensed something and suddenly paused, turning around. A few figures stood at the entrance of Snow Wind Ridge and looked at him from afar. Even though it was night and they were 50 kilometers apart, Su Zimo could still see their appearances clearly. Yu Hao, Xia Qingying, Shen Fei, Gu Wenjun, Duan Tianliang. These people had still come out to send him off. A warm feeling flowed through Su Zimo's heart. After looking at everyone for a long time, he took a deep breath and turned around. With his back facing everyone, he waved and disappeared into the night. I wonder if I'll have the chance to see Boss Su again in the future. Duan Tianliang sighed softly with a dejected expression. Yu Hao said, Brother Su doesn't belong here after all. We're too far away from him and that distance would most likely only increase in the future. Shen Fei smiled and pretended to be relaxed. That's good too. If fellow Daoist Su makes a name for himself in Green Cloud County one day, we might be able to brag about our experiences with him all these years. Suppressing the melancholy of parting in his heart, Su Zimo composed himself and sped towards Dragon Abyss City. His cultivation was not high enough and he could only make use of the teleportation formation in Dragon Abyss City if he wanted to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to Green Cloud County. There were two ways to use the teleportation formation to leave. The first was to cultivate to grade 9 Black Immortal. Second, he had to pay 100 Essence Spirit Stones. 100 Essence Spirit Stones was a little painful. However, as long as he could arrive at Green Cloud County safely, he would have more chances to obtain more Essence Spirit Stones. Half a month later, Su Zimo arrived at Dragon Abyss City. Dragon Abyss City had not changed much after dozens of years. On the other hand, the few guards at the entrance were first stunned when they saw Su Zimo before their expressions changed. Most of the cultivators in the city had witnessed the battle beneath Dragon Abyss City personally. Furthermore, Su Zimo's reputation had grown over the years. After destroying the two great bandits a year ago, he was even more famous and everyone knew about him. Many guards were wary when they saw Su Zimo arrive and even forgot to collect his entrance fee. Su Zimo smiled faintly and took out 1,000 essence condensation pills, stuffing them into the hands of a guard. Excuse me, badge. The guard took 2 steps back instinctively with a cautious gaze. He paused for a moment before throwing a badge back to Su Zimo. Su Zimo received the badge. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he headed straight for the city lord's residence, prepared to pay the Essence Spirit Stones and leave immediately. He had a feud with Lu Tong in Dragon Abyss City. If Lu Tong knew that he had entered the city once more, there was a high chance that something would happen. Chapter 1905, Killing Intent. Chapter 1905, Killing Intent. Not long after Su Zimo entered the city, many guards reacted. A guard hurriedly took out a messenger talisman from his storage bag and wrote a sentence on it. With a casual toss, the talisman transformed into a streak of light and vanished. After Su Zimo entered the city, many people recognized him and caused a commotion. He ignored everyone's shocked gazes and sprinted forward. Before long, he arrived at the city lord's residence. There were 10 guards on both sides of the entrance of the city lord's residence and it was heavily guarded. Su Zimo walked forward and cupped his fists towards one of the tall and skinny guards. I want to use the teleportation formation to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to Green Cloud County. The guards of the city lord's residence guarded this place all year round and would almost never leave. Back then, when Su Zimo fought beneath Dragon Abyss City, none of them went to the city wall to watch the battle. Therefore, they had never seen Su Zimo before. Even if they had heard of Su Zimo's name, they could not recognize him. You? The tall and skinny guard sized Su Zimo up and could not help but sneer when he saw that the latter was only a grade 7 Black Immortal. You'll have to pay 100 essence spirit stones to use the teleportation formation. Can you afford it? In his opinion, even the commanders of Dragon Abyss City might not be able to produce 100 essence spirit stones, let alone this green-robed scholar. Su Zimo did not argue and took out a storage bag that he had prepared long ago. Opening it, he revealed the 100 essence spirit stones inside. The few guards swept their gazes and were shocked, and they saw it clearly. This unassuming grade 7 black immortal could casually take out 100 essence spirit stones. Greed flashed through the eyes of the tall and skinny guard. He said expressionlessly, "Follow me." Under a few fervent gazes, Su Zimo followed the tall and skinny guard into the city lord's residence with a calm expression. The tall and skinny guard led the way and Su Zimo followed closely behind. After walking for a while, the tall and skinny guard suddenly turned around and asked loudly with a burning gaze, "Speak. Where did you get those 100 essence spirit stones?" If it was anyone else, they would feel uneasy upon entering the city lord's residence. After all, the city lord's residence was the most noble place on the Dragon Abyss Star, and ordinary people would not have the chance to come into contact with it. Given those circumstances alongside the tall and skinny guard's threat, anyone who was caught off guard would definitely panic. Once they revealed their fear, they would most likely not dare to lie to the tall and skinny guard. However, when the tall and skinny guard suddenly stopped in his tracks and was about to turn around, Su Zimo seemed to have sensed it and stopped as well. The tall and skinny guard's move had no effect on Su Zimo at all. Su Zimo merely looked at the tall and skinny guard calmly. "By chance, I obtained dozens of essence spirit stones. The remaining ones were accumulated by me over the years, adding up to the 100 total." Looking at the calm Su Zimo, the tall and skinny guard was slightly disappointed. "Where did you obtain the dozens of essence spirit stones?" The tall and skinny guard continued asking. "That abyss." Su Zimo replied. There were many earth immortals and heaven immortals buried in the abyss. Even if the tall and skinny guard did not believe it, he would not dare to check. When the tall and skinny guard saw Su Zimo's calm expression and flawless reply, he knew that he would not be able to get anything out of the latter even if he continued asking. "Hand me the 100 essence spirit stones." The tall and skinny guard extended his palm and said firmly. Su Zimo raised his brow slightly and asked, "Where's the teleportation formation?" The tall and skinny guard pointed in a direction. "Follow this path and you'll see the teleportation formation in about 10 minutes. Hurry, give me the essence spirit stones." The tall and skinny guard urged impatiently. Su Zimo was still motionless as he asked again, "If I give you the essence spirit stones and head to the teleportation formation, I can leave this place immediately?" "Humph." The tall and skinny guard could not help but sneer and mock. "You must be dreaming. Do you think that the teleportation formation of the Dragon Abyss Star is only activated for you? Who do you think you are?" Su Zimo was not bothered by the tall and skinny guard's mockery. This was the city lord's residence and he did not want to create unnecessary trouble. "What do you mean?" Su Zimo asked. The tall and skinny guard said, "The teleportation formation only activates once a year at a fixed time. It's only been 2 months since it was last activated. If you want to activate the teleportation formation during this period of time, you'll have to gather 10 people." Su Zimo frowned. Judging from the tall and skinny guard's gaze, he should not be lying. However, it was impossible to gather 10 cultivators with 100 essence spirit stones within a short period of time. In other words, he would have to wait for at least 10 months before he could leave the Dragon Abyss Star. Under normal circumstances, 10 months would pass in the blink of an eye. However, there was a high chance that Lu Tong knew about his whereabouts. The longer he lingered, the easier it would be for something to happen. "Hand me the essence spirit stones and come back in 10 months." The tone of the tall and skinny guard turned increasingly impatient. Su Zimo took out his storage bag and was about to hand it to the tall and skinny guard when he suddenly retracted it and asked with a fake smile, "If I give you the essence spirit stones and you suddenly deny it 10 months later?" Insolent. The expression of the tall and skinny guard changed and he revealed killing intent. Indeed, he had that intention. Now that Su Zimo exposed it, he could not help but feel enraged and wanted to kill. When Su Zimo saw the reaction of the tall and skinny guard, it confirmed his guess. He put away his storage bag and said indifferently, "Since that's the case, I'll come again 10 months later. At that time, I'll hand over the essence spirit stones with both hands." With that said, Su Zimo turned to leave, prepared to leave Dragon Abyss City and lie low for the time being. "Don't even think about leaving without my permission." The tall and skinny guard had a dark expression and strode forward murderously. Suddenly, he slapped Su Zimo on the head. The tall and skinny guard did not hold back at all, he wanted to slap Su Zimo to death. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes with killing intent as well. The tall and skinny guard was only a grade 7 black immortal. He had 100 ways to kill this person instantly. However, if he killed this person, it would definitely cause a stir in the City Lord's residence and Dragon Abyss City. At that time, the City Lord's residence would be even more guarded and it would be impossible for him to use the teleportation formation to leave. At that thought, Su Zimo moved and avoided the palm of the tall and skinny guard with ease. He turned around with a cold gaze. "As a guard of the City Lord's residence, are you intending to rob me openly?" Su Zimo said slowly. The tall and skinny guard grit his teeth and sneered, "What can you do even if I rob you openly? You're just a lowlife. It's your honor that I'm willing to take your essence spirit stones." Clang. The tall and skinny guard pulled out a shiny saber and said coldly, "Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll send you to hell today." With that said, the blood chi of the tall and skinny guard surged and he became one with his saber. Descending from the skies, he tore through the void and slashed down with a thunderous might. Su Zimo's expression darkened and his eyes shone coldly. He was already prepared to leave this place immediately after killing this person and escape from Dragon Abyss City to hide before making further plans. Given his current capabilities, even the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City would not be able to hold him back. Chapter 1906, Killing in the City. Chapter 1906, Killing in the City. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he looked at the tall and skinny guard who descended from the skies with an aggressive aura. However, he did not move at all. The tall and skinny guard sneered internally. When he saw that Su Zimo was a grade 7 black immortal, he did not dare to be careless and did not hold back at all, releasing 100% of his strength. To think that the grade 7 black immortal seemed to have been scared out of his wits and gave up on resisting. The tall and skinny guard was about to slice the green-robed scholar into two when the latter suddenly attacked. There were no complicated movements or secret skills or divine powers. He merely extended his palm and grabbed the saber. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. The tall and skinny guard hollered and channeled his blood chi, causing his saber beam to flare. Piak. When the saber struck the green-robed scholar's palm, there was no blood as the tall and skinny guard had imagined. Not only that, his supreme black-grade saber could not leave a single scar on that seemingly fair palm. To be precise, there were no marks at all even. All the energy he released vanished like a rock sinking into the ocean. How was that possible? The tall and skinny guard's eyes widened in disbelief and he froze on the spot. Right then, Su Zimo closed his fingers and gripped the long saber of the tall and skinny guard, exerting strength in his palm. Crack. There was a crisp sound. The tall and skinny guard shuddered and his pupils constricted. The saber in his hands was snapped by Su Zimo single-handedly. Pust. The tall and skinny guard was shocked and looked at Su Zimo as though he had seen a ghost. This method had already surpassed his understanding. His saber was a supreme black-grade dermic treasure that could only be broken by a connate black-grade dermic treasure. However, there were no traces of dermic treasures on the person's palm. Now that Su Zimo was at level 7 Black Essence realm, the Green Lotus true body was also growing continuously. If he used his full strength, the Green Lotus true body could even take on a connate black-grade dermic treasure head-on. Naturally, it could cripple this saber with ease. The tall and skinny guard froze on the spot, but Su Zimo did not stop attacking. He snapped the saber and gripped half of it. Striding forward, he slapped the half of the saber into the tall and skinny guard's face. The saber pierced the person's head and consciousness. Su Zimo, how dare you! Right then, a shout sounded not far away. Su Zimo! You're Su Zimo! Just as the tall and skinny guard's essence spirit was about to dissipate, he finally realized who the green-robed cultivator before him was upon hearing that name. Unfortunately, it was already too late by the time he realized that. Su Zimo turned around slowly and looked over. Not far away, hundreds of Dragon Abyss City guards sped over with a murderous aura. Their leader was Commander Lu Tong, who had a feud with him. Su Zimo released his spirit consciousness and scanned Lu Tong, frowning slightly. Grade 9 Black Immortal. Back then, when Lu Tong chased after him and released his secret skill, he returned fruitless and even injured his essence chi. It was unknown what opportunities this person obtained, but his injuries healed within dozens of years and he even entered the level 9 Black Essence realm. Surround him. Lu Tong ordered swiftly in a deep voice, activate the formation of the City Lord's residence. We must not let that lad escape from this place. Hundreds of city guards spread out rapidly and surrounded Su Zimo. Everyone took out their dermic treasures with wary expressions, prepared to attack at any moment. At the same time, a blue barrier extended from the wall of the City Lord's residence and enveloped the entire place. There was a formation around the City Lord's residence. Lu Tong was clearly worried that Su Zimo would summon the golden rock wings and soar into the skies to escape from Dragon Abyss City. After doing that, Lu Tong strode over and paused not far away from Su Zimo, sneering, Su Zimo, I was about to look for you. To think that you would come knocking on my door. Do you think that you can stop me with just these few people? Su Zimo asked with an indifferent expression. Ha 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 ha. Lu Tong burst into laughter. You truly don't know that you're about to die. How dare you kill someone in the residence of the City Lord? You won't be able to escape today. Retrieving his saber from his storage bag, Lu Tong glared at Su Zimo murderously. As long as he gave the order, a huge battle would break out. All of you, stop. Right then, a shout sounded from the depths of the City Lord's residence. The voice was slightly tender, as though the person was young. Su Zimo frowned with a strange expression. He felt that the voice was familiar, as though he had heard it somewhere before. Su Zimo looked over. Not far away, a young man walked over. He was at the level 6 Black Essence realm and revealed a dignified aura as he walked. It's him. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. This young man was none other than the person he had unintentionally saved from the black fog back in the abyss, Su Xiaotian. Black immortals had a lifespan of 100,000 years. That was the reason why he still looked like a young man after dozens of years. Greetings, young master. When the hundreds of guards saw Su Xiaotian, they put down their dermic treasures and cupped their fists. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. From the looks of it, his status in the City Lord's residence was not low. Back then, Su Xiaotian wore a jade pendant on his waist. It was because of that jade pendant that he managed to survive in the black fog for a long time before finally meeting Su Zimo. Cultivators who could possess that sort of treasure naturally had extraordinary backgrounds. From the way the guards referred to him, there was a high chance that he was the child of the Dragon Abyss City's City Lord. Su Zimo relaxed and was prepared to wait and see. It would naturally be for the best if they could resolve the current situation without a huge battle. If he were to start a massacre in the City Lord's residence, even if he escaped to Green Cloud County in the future, he would be hunted down by the immortal army of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and there would never be peace. Xiaotian, what are you doing here? Lu Tong frowned. Su Xiaotian bowed to Lu Tong as a junior. Uncle Lu, I came over to take a look when I saw the city lord's residence's formation being activated. What are you guys doing? Why are you guys so tense? Don't interfere in this matter. I'll handle it. Lu Tong waved his hand. Su Xiaotian glanced at Su Zimo and gave the latter a comforting look before turning to Lu Tong and saying firmly, Uncle Lu, you can't touch this person. Lu Tong's expression changed as he hollered, what did you say? This man killed someone in the city lord's residence, and it was even a guard of our great Jin immortal kingdom. He deserves to die. How dare you say that I can't touch him? You're still young. Hurry and retreat and don't interfere in this matter. Lu Tong's tone turned increasingly stern. However, Su Xiaotian continued to stand in front of Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, Uncle Lu, this person saved my life. Humph. Lu Tong's expression darkened completely as he said coldly, just because he saved your life, he thinks that he can kill the guards of the great Jin immortal kingdom as he pleases? Even your father won't be able to protect him in this matter, let alone you. The aura that Lu Tong exuded turned increasingly sharp as it crushed towards Su Xiaotian. Su Xiaotian was only a grade 6 black immortal after all. Against that aura, his face was pale and he could barely hold on. However, he still had a stubborn expression and refused to retreat. He clenched his fists and argued, Uncle Lu, there might be some other reason. Scram! Lu Tong interrupted him with a cold gaze. If you dare to stop me again, I'll suppress you as well. Chapter 1907, Open Strife. Chapter 1907, Open Strife. Who do you want to suppress? Right then, a cold voice sounded out of nowhere. Not far away, a middle-aged man walked over. He had a cold expression and his eyes were bright with a hint of authority. Greetings, City Lord. Many Dragon Abyss city guards bowed hurriedly when they saw that person. Father. When Su Xiaotian saw that person, he called out with a delighted expression. The City Lord of Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi. Su Zimo's gaze swept across Su Shi and Lu Tong as he secretly compared them. Although both of them were grade 9 black immortals, Su Shi's aura was clearly superior to Lu Tong. As though he could not match Su Shi's gaze, Lu Tong lowered his head slightly with a dark expression and cupped his fists. I was anxious and wanted to kill the villain, so I spoke a little more intensely. Please forgive me, City Lord. Rolling his pitch-black eyes, Su Xiaotian hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Su Shi's spirit consciousness. Father, he's Su Zimo, the person who saved me in the abyss back then. Su Shi's expression was unchanged and he did not even look at Su Zimo. He merely looked at Lu Tong and asked, Commander Lu, who is the villain you're referring to? Him. Lu Tong pointed at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, although I have some personal grudges with this person, I won't use my position to take revenge. However, I saw him kill a city guard in your residence earlier on. A guard at the side nodded and echoed, we saw it too. Su Shi glanced at the corpse without saying anything and was still expressionless. Earlier on, Xiaotian said that this person saved him. Even so, he can't escape death for killing in the city lord's residence. Lu Tong shouted with an enraged expression, killing an immortal soldier of Great Jin is a provocation to the dignity of the Great Jin dynasty. It's unforgivable. That's right. Exactly. Lu Tong's words were firm and powerful, attracting the agreement of many Dragon Abyss city guards. An imperceptible smugness flashed through Lu Tong's eyes as he cupped his fists once more. He looked at Su Shi meaningfully and asked with a smile, this is no small matter. I believe that you won't be biased, City Lord, right? Su Zimo frowned. Although Lu Tong's tone was respectful at the end, there was a hint of arrogance and dominance. Su Shi was still expressionless. Su Zimo's gaze lingered between Su Shi and Lu Tong thoughtfully. The city lord's residence fell into silence and the atmosphere turned tense. However, Su Zimo looked relaxed, as though everything before him had nothing to do with him. Father, I believe there must be some misunderstanding. When Su Xiaotian saw that the situation was not right, he said anxiously. What misunderstanding? Su Shi finally spoke and asked. This. Su Xiaotian was speechless. Su Shi shifted his gaze towards Su Zimo, who was not far away, and said slowly, You do deserve death if you had killed my guard without any reason. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he understood what Su Shi was implying. He cupped his fists and said, I had no other choice but to attack him. Thereafter, Su Zimo recounted everything that happened earlier on. Those were all facts and there was no need for him to hide them. Lu Tong frowned when he heard that. Father, look. I told you that it's not Brother Su's fault. Su Xiaotian said with a smile. With that said, he even kicked the corpse of the tall and skinny guard specially and hollered, You're truly a disgrace to Dragon Abyss City and the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Naturally, Lu Tong refused to give up and said in a deep voice, So what if we try to rob his essence spirit stones as soldiers of Great Jin Immortal Kingdom? It's not a crime equivalent to death. He's just a lowlife. Su Shi narrowed his gaze and said coldly, Commander Lu, I ascended from the lower worlds as well. Could it be that in your eyes, I'm also a lowlife? I wouldn't dare. Lu Tong lowered his head slightly and said. Although he said that he wouldn't dare, there was no fear on his face. Instead, he looked a little arrogant. Su Zimo fell into deep thought when he saw that. Although the exchange between Su Shi and Lu Tong was short, it revealed a lot of information. The city lord of Dragon Abyss City was also someone who had ascended from the lower worlds. However, Lu Tong clearly knew that. Although he was targeting Su Zimo with his words earlier on, there was a higher chance that he was referring to him as well. Su Shi could tell, and that was why he retaliated. However, the strange thing was that Su Shi did not really punish Lu Tong for his repeated offenses. Su Zimo could vaguely sense that after Lu Tong advanced to a grade 9 Black Immortal, there was a high chance he would challenge Su Shi for the position of the city lord. The two of them might have already fallen out and are fighting in secret. However, because of the matter of his unintentional barging in today, the two of them had a direct conflict. Surveying his surroundings, Su Shi said slowly, A soldier of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom openly robbing essence spirit stones in Dragon Abyss City. How is that different from those bandits outside? If I knew about this, I would kill him personally as well as a warning to others. His words were extremely harsh, implying that the tall and skinny guard deserved to die. Disperse. Su Shi waved his hand gently and turned to leave. Su Xiaotian tugged at Su Zimo's sleeve secretly and sent a voice transmission, Brother Su, follow me. With that, he chased after Su Shi with Su Zimo. Lu Tong's expression was dark and he remained silent. The surrounding hundreds of guards exchanged glances and did not step in. The guards could also sense the subtle changes between Lu Tong and Su Shi. However, no matter what, the current city lord was still Su Shi. None of them was a fool and would not be the silly one to step out. Lu Tong could only watch helplessly as Su Zimo disappeared into the distance. However, Lu Tong seemed to have thought of something and sneered. On the other side, Su Zimo and Su Xiaotian followed behind Su Shi and conversed softly. Before long, a grand hall appeared before them. It was built with green rocks and looked dignified. Su Shi walked straight in and sat on the seat of the city lord in the middle of the hall, looking down at Su Zimo who had just entered. When Su Shi appeared, he did not even look at Su Zimo directly. It was only then that he began to scrutinize Su Zimo with a frightening gaze, as though he wanted to see the latter through. Su Shi stared at Su Zimo for a moment and realized that even with his experience and knowledge, he could not see through the seemingly frail scholar before him. The more that was the case, the more suspicious he was. All these years, he had naturally heard of a genius that appeared out of nowhere on the Dragon Abyss star. To think that this person would have even saved Xiaotian before, could there be a trap? What secrets did this person have? Did this person have any other motives? If not for that caution, Su Shi would not have been able to stand out from the many people who had ascended from the lower worlds and ascend to the position of the city lord of Dragon Abyss City step by step. Although he was the city lord of a remote star, there was probably no one else in the entire Green Cloud County or even the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom who could ascend to his current status. Chapter 1908, Test. Chapter 1908, Test. Against the scrutinizing gaze of the person with the highest authority on the Dragon Abyss Star, Su Zimo had a calm expression and merely cupped his fists. Thank you for saving me, City Lord. No matter if it was to intimidate Lu Tong or for any other reason, Su Shi had stepped in to help him avoid trouble. If not for Su Shi, he would have gone on a massacre in Dragon Abyss City. Even if he could escape from this place, there would be endless trouble in the future. Su Zimo. Su Shi nodded slowly. I've long heard about you. All these years, you've caused quite a stir on the Dragon Abyss Star. Su Zimo did not understand what Su Shi meant and remained silent. Su Shi did not continue discussing this matter and suddenly changed the topic. I heard that you're extremely talented and have peerless combat strength. You can kill opponents above your level. Back then, you were only a grade 5 Black Immortal, but you could already kill grade 7 Black Immortals. I was just lucky. Su Zimo said. Su Shi glared at Su Zimo with a bright gaze and said coldly, in that case, now that you're a grade 7 Black Immortal, doesn't that mean that you have the combat strength to kill me? There was a hint of hostility in his words. It gave off the feeling that if Su Zimo replied wrongly, Su Shi would suddenly attack and kill Su Zimo as a threat in advance. Sensing that something was amiss with the atmosphere, Su Xiaotian could not help but say uneasily, Father, Brother Su saved my life. Why would he hurt you? Don't pull a long face. It's scary. City Lord, you must be joking. I wouldn't dare. Su Zimo said indifferently. Although he did not dare to, he did not say that he could not. Naturally, Su Shi could tell the slight difference. However, he was not enraged. Instead, he burst into laughter. Good, good. Su Zimo, you're indeed courageous. I like it. You saved Xiaotian and have such innate combat strength. Why don't you stay in Dragon Abyss City and help me? Don't worry, your status in Dragon Abyss City will be equivalent to the other commanders. I'll also provide you with a considerable number of essence condensation pills to cultivate. Su Xiaotian was delighted and said hurriedly, Brother Su, hurry and agree. You can stay and accompany me while we cultivate together. To be able to provide essence condensation pills at the same level as a commander was an extremely sincere invitation. However, if Su Zimo wanted to cultivate rapidly, he needed essence spirit stones. Essence condensation pills were not much of an attraction for him. Su Zimo was not interested in the position of a commander either. Now that Lu Tong was a grade 9 Black Immortal, there was a high chance that a fight for the position of City Lord would break out between him and Su Shi in the future. If he stayed to help Su Shi, he would definitely be embroiled in this battle. Su Zimo did not have the energy or mood to get involved in such a power struggle. Su Zimo pondered for a moment. Thank you for your high regard, City Lord. However, my mind is not here. I still want to leave the Dragon Abyss Star as soon as possible. Are you really leaving? Su Shi frowned slightly. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. When Su Shi saw Su Zimo reject his invitation, he did not have any regrets. Instead, a look of relief flashed through his eyes, as though he was relieved of a burden. His invitation earlier on was merely a test. If Su Zimo were to stay, he would definitely keep an eye on Su Zimo and be on guard. Now that Su Zimo had made up his mind, he was relieved. On the other hand, Su Xiaotian looked reluctant. Su Zimo thought for a moment and asked, I heard that the teleportation formation in Dragon Abyss City can only teleport once a year. Is that true? Indeed. Su Shi was in a good mood and waved his hand. However, you're Xiaotian's life-saving benefactor. It's nothing much for me to send an order to activate a teleportation formation for you individually. You don't have to pay for your 100 essence spirit stones either. Thank you, City Lord. Su Zimo was secretly delighted and expressed his thanks. With that, not only could he leave the Dragon Abyss Star immediately, he could even save 100 essence spirit stones. Essence spirit stones were way too important to him. Su Shi raised his hand and tossed a badge to Su Xiaotian. Take my badge and take Su Zimo over. We can activate the teleportation formation right away. With that said, Su Shi turned to leave. Brother Su, follow me. Su Xiaotian led Su Zimo towards the teleportation formation of the city lord's residence. Along the way, he could not help but ask, Brother Su, are you really not going to stay? Although my father was rude to you earlier on, he's actually a very nice person. Su Zimo smiled and patted Su Xiaotian on the shoulder gently. Actually, your father's vigilance towards me is not without reason. Huh? Su Xiaotian was puzzled. Su Zimo explained, I did save you before, but how much do you know about me? How do you know that I'm not doing this to get close to your father or have other motives? Su Xiaotian hesitated for a long time before saying, I'm sure you won't, Brother Su. Although he said that, he did not have the confidence and felt guilty. He realized that he knew nothing about Su Zimo apart from the latter's name. Su Zimo smiled. The pugilistic world is treacherous. It's never wrong to be cautious. Yes. Su Xiaotian nodded vigorously. The two of them advanced through the winding stone paths of the garden. Before long, the path ahead opened up and a teleportation formation made of green stones appeared. Every single green stone was etched with mysterious and complicated formation patterns. The final teleportation formation was only formed after so many green stones were built together. There were 4 to 5 guards guarding the teleportation formation. Su Xiaotian walked forward and took out the city lord badge. Guard Shui, this is my father's badge. He wants you to activate the teleportation formation and send someone away. Guard Shui blushed slightly and averted his gaze, saying embarrassedly, Young master, I'm truly sorry. This teleportation formation is broken. What? Su Xiaotian frowned and hollered, why did the teleportation formation suddenly break down? How did you guys guard it? Although he was not old, he had already begun to possess authority. Su Zimo walked forward and took a look around the teleportation formation. Before long, he discovered the problem and pointed to a long green stone. This green stone is shattered to such an extent. It can't be an accident. It's caused by external forces. In other words, someone did not want him to leave and destroyed the teleportation formation on purpose. Su Xiaotian straightened his face with a cold expression. Guard Shui, how dare you? It's not my fault. Guard Shui rubbed his hands and laughed dryly. It was fine previously and was only broken just now. I definitely didn't do it. Who was it then? Su Xiaotian asked. I have no idea as well. Guard Shui said with a fake smile. Although he was respectful on the surface, he did not take the young master before him to heart. Su Xiaotian clenched his fists and said coldly, It's your dereliction of duty to guard this place without knowing who destroyed the teleportation formation. I'll inform my father right now and punish you for your dereliction of duty. And no. The moment Guard Shui heard Su Xiaotian mention the city lord, he panicked and stammered, Commander Lu just came and asked us to leave for a period of time before we left. We don't know what happened during that period of time either. Lu Tong. Su Xiaotian grit his teeth with an indignant expression. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.